get you, Barbara.
How's it hanging, Phil?
What's the prime time, bitch?
Come and get it! So either put the gun down now, or kiss your ass goodbye.
Let's get this party started.
I agree, Dana. Let's get this party started. So,
Hell yeah.
welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I'm joined by three guys that are not only big influences of mine, but also great friends of mine. First off, we have Kainan Becker from Ghost Pirate Entertainment. How you doing, man?
What's up, guys?
We have Jay
Great.
Hooft from JKB. How you doing, my friend?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Amazing to have you back here again. And then,
Thanks, dude.
obviously, the amazing Cody Leach. Cody, how you doing tonight, my friend?
Yeah, the great guy that influenced him couldn't make it, so I filled in.
Yeah. Thank God I got you on speed dial. So I didn't realize that I had never, ever done this list before. This is a list that Ashley did when they did the Ghouls Night In. I had never done this. So I wanted to get, the final guys together and do this list together. So real quick, I do want to say we got Ray here. We got Ryan. Leslie is here. There he is. He's the man, the myth, the legend. So is mine. Thank you. And also, we have all of their links in the description, guys. So if you haven't subscribed to any of them, please make sure you're doing it. It helps to build the channels way more than pushing that algorithm that is so tricky to try to figure out in the first place. What's up, J-Dev? What's up, Viper Eye? Juicy Booch. Love the name. How you doing? Excited to check out the show. We're very excited to have you here. So tonight we're going to do a straight top 10. Four of the nicest guys on YouTube altogether. Your check's in the mail, Carbonite. Thank you. So in this list, we decided that we're not going to do any honorable mentions. We're going to have just a top 10. First donation, Juicy. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And Cody, Kainan, you know what that means. Jay, I don't know if you do, but you're about to find out.
Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby.
Thank you so much. So just get right to the list because I feel like that's why everybody is here. They want to hear our top 10. Starting off at number 10 for me, I'm going to have Mike from Phantasm. Growing up, this was a movie, the first Phantasm especially, that just rocked me. The tall man, screaming boy, throwing the stud. It's just something that always impacted me on like a molecular level. And when I seen the one guy get the sphere in the head and, the blood coming out and he pisses himself, and you get more into the franchise the older I got, and you realize like everything that Mike's gone through and how amazing he is to outlast the tall man throughout all this. So I would be remiss if I didn't add him on the list just because the impact that just the first one alone had on me in my life. So number 10 for me is going to be Mike from Phantasm. How about you, Kainan?
That's such a great movie. So I'm going with my number 10.
Yep.
Or what do I? Okay. Because sometimes we talk about each other's picks. So, okay. I'm going with Alex Browning from Final Destination. That movie is just so much fun. Like, there's not a lot of ways to put it. Plus I'm a big fan of the performance there, and just like he played such a good teenage, like scared. He played such a good scared teenage, because like a lot of times we'll see final guys or guys in general, especially when they're teenagers, and they have the extra bravado, but he doesn't really have that in the movie. He just kind of has this deer in headlights, running scared kind of vibe about him. And I think it's just a lot of fun. Just the movie in general. It's just a fun movie. And I think he's got a great performance in it. So yeah, that's my number 10.
I love it. I can promise you we will talk about Devin Sawa again tonight. I can't promise it'll be that role, but we will talk about him again tonight.
Yeah, I love Devin Sawa, especially in the new, and then Chucky, his recurring role in Chucky's series. But that's for me. Whenever I see him, I still always think of him in the Final Destination, even though it's like he's done a lot of stuff. Because probably my favorite role he's ever done is in Hunter x Hunter. Like that's probably my favorite role of his, even though it's a small role. Like he just is such a badass in that movie. But yeah, this is the one I always think of him when I think of him. But yeah.
Not gonna lie, for me, he's always gonna be Junior, the little giant to help lead them back against the Cowboys, baby. So what about you, Jay? What's your number 10?
So I'm just gonna say off the top of the here, I went through everything and I'm like, I can't pick 10. So I just essentially, they're not in any order. I've just picked 10 dudes from films that I grew up with that I thought about.
That's
so
fine.
We're going with Jim Halsey. Do anyone know that one?
The Hitcher?
That is from The Hitcher.
Oh, Hitcher, yeah.
So the reason I picked him is because of what we're going to spoil things on this. I guess we're spoiling.
Yes, absolutely.
What happens?
If you haven't seen The
big-
Hitcher by
big
now, just
spoiler
leave
warning.
and come back.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Hey, you just saw it. Wasn't it like last year or something? You reviewed it, Cody?
Oh, no, I've seen it, but I just reviewed it for the first
okay.
time. But I grew up with that movie.
Okay, because I'm like, I remember seeing you review that. So.
Yeah, for me, what he goes through in that story, maybe I won't want to spoil it, but in the third reel, something very traumatic happens, and it's just like, as a kid, I used to think like that guy must have some balls to be able to survive what happens to him in that story.
Mhm.
And that movie used to scare the shit out of me when I was young. Rutger Hauer is absolutely
One of the most
intimidating.
underrated villains.
Absolutely
Really is.
And what's amazing is we're getting a 4K transfer of it, I believe, this year. So I'm
Thank
excited
God.
about that. It's
That's
about
awesome.
time. So there you go. There's one of my top 10.
Yeah. See, it's funny because Ashley and I are going to be actual guests at our first convention at Atlantic City in July. And C. Thomas Howell is one of the people that are going to be there with us. And
Oh, is
so,
it?
That's
like,
cool.
Dude,
yeah,
that's amazing.
Like, it's like him and then like Bret Hart. And I'm like, this is the coolest shit. Like, if 13-year-old me heard this, holy shit, man.
It's
Um,
insane.
So what about you, Cody?
My number 10 is going to go back to Final Destination. I have Alex there as well. Alex Browning. I was a big Devin Sawa fan a lot growing up in quite a few movies. And Final Destination, I remember, was one of those movies where I saw the trailer and I was like, that's going to be big. That's going to be awesome. And nobody talked about it. And then me and my dad saw it in the theater and we were just like, as soon as the credits rolled after that sign fell, we were like, holy shit, this is going to be awesome. And I would have him higher if the franchise didn't just like dispense him so ridiculously in the second film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kill him off, at least find a decent way to do it. But yeah,
Yeah, just drop a brick on him, whatever.
I mean, it was almost like the filmmaker was like giving the middle finger to Devin Sawa somehow. It was so lame. But I like the fact that he's not necessarily a nerd, but like he's lower on the high school hierarchy. And then all of a sudden now all the different caricatures of high school are all looking at him for the answers. And the crazier the rules get, like they're like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? We intervened and death does this. You're out of your mind. And then just more and more he's right. And it's just a really fun movie. It's a fun role. And I think he's one of the main reasons why it stood the test of time and became such a big franchise.
That's
If
a
we're
really
allowed to
good
break
point.
rules on everything. I would love to see a requel now that takes place after 5. That ignores Final Destination 2 through 5 or 2 through 4.
Bring
and
him
just
back.
Him and Ellie Larder for.
That's what I was just gonna say. That like that's a really good point you bring up, because I think the Final Destination franchise sorely misses not having that recurring character, like like. Because a lot of these franchises, the best ones that we know of, they have at least one. If it may be the villain, or it might be, a Laurie, Laurie or whoever, but you have someone that you can kind of latch onto for your
There kind of is right?
nostalgia, huh?
There kind of is a reoccurring character throughout
Death.
Final Destination. Death itself, but there's also
Bloodsworth, baby.
Well, I was going to say the mortician, Candyman. He's
Bloodsworth.
Yeah, Bloodsworth. They visit him essentially
On the nose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they did have him have a little more of a, like, as the series franchise went on, but it still just doesn't feel the same, because all he really does is just I can never say that word right, but is it exposition drop?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
that's really all he ever does. So he doesn't really feel like a character as much as he just, like, I love him. I love Tony Todd. He never disappoints me in anything he's in. But
I have a funny quick story about Tony Todd. I was at a convention with my show once, and he saw me and he ran up to me in the middle of the convention and he was like, holy shit, haven't seen you forever. And I'm thinking, what the hell is he talking about? And he's like, how have you been? I'm like, good. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, don't fuck with me. Sorry, I don't know if we could swear here.
Yeah,
He's like,
yeah, you're good.
Okay. He's like, don't fuck around with
late.
me. Yeah, he's like, don't fuck around with me. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? He's like, we did that movie last summer together. I'm like, you got the wrong person. He's like, nah, you're the guy. You're just messing with me. And it actually, I swear to God, it took me 20 minutes. I think he was high as a kite. It took me 20 minutes to explain to him that I did not star in a film with him. And I'm not making
Who
this
did
up.
he think you were?
I don't know. I never got that out of him. At the time I had my hair dyed on the sides black and I had a blonde mohawk. I have no idea. To this day, I would
have went with it. I would have been like,
I
it
was going to
the best
say,
experience of my
after
life.
3 minutes, I would have just accepted that as my fate. Like, yeah, dude, totally. We did a movie together, and now we're best friends.
No,
What are
well,
we doing next?
Right.
I don't think
Yeah, exactly.
I never convinced
Get a
him.
roll from him.
I
It'd be
didn't
like The
convince him.
Hangover. It'd be a bunch of Polaroids of me with Tony Todd, like
Right.
tigers and
Sorry, I
shit.
never got back to you, Tony. But
Yeah.
give me
Mike
your
Tyson
number.
rolls
Let's stay
in.
touch.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy, but that was a weird time for me. I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't know what to say to you. He's like,
That's
dude.
amazing,
He's
dude.
like,
That's a
don't,
great
he's
story,
like, yeah,
though.
he's like, don't mess around. I'm like, it was not me.
Next convention, you got to turn it on him. Be like, dude, I haven't seen you in fucking forever. Like, we had that.
Right.
Yeah. I should do that.
Remember, we did that movie together. Jay, you attractive man. He's so attractive, we're going to bring some Sawa into it for him.
I told you I was a good dancer. Can I keep you?
That was creepy as fuck.
That is the creepiest line I've ever heard in my life. I love the
Double Feature
Ghostbusters cameo
Podcast.
in that movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how the older you get, the more stuff like that's like, ooh, I have a daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
don't
line
want-
is just
You don't
yeah.
want
By
to
the way,
do
let me
that.
just say this: I'd say like 80% of the super chats coming in here that are just weird. That's because of my viewers. Just the ones that are
still
like,
appreciate
how
it.
much to take off all your shirts? That's my fault. Sorry.
I'll do it for free.
Oh, do not tempt them.
Yeah, do not feed him. Thank
Yeah.
you for real, Zaylan. I agree. He is the man. We're honored to have him back here again tonight.
Yeah, I'm glad mine are
Um,
being quiet right now because I don't need
Ooh.
any weirdness from them.
I like that, Charles. Burt Gummer from Tremors. That's a good one. I like it. Funny
guess
enough,
it would be
Adrian,
if-
the last one, the newest one, part 5 is my favorite. That's
Hmm.
my favorite of the franchise. I love how they spin it all back together. It's amazing.
I'm excited about the
ooh,
new one coming out. I think
Me
it's got
too.
potential. I think we're finally. I think they finally know what people want from a Final Destination movie, and I think we could
Mhm.
actually see a decent one.
This lady looks really pretty. Jim Norman from Sometimes They Come Back. Good call, babe. There's a good chance we'll talk about him again.
Do you think Burt Gummer is a final guy? I mean, I guess he is.
I mean, I would
right?
think so up until,
Some of
eventually.
these are so hard because it's like they're not really they're not exactly the way you look at like final girls. Like they're kind of even though they might be the last guy in a movie, and I'm talking about my list in general, they don't quite feel like final. You know what I mean? They play almost like a different role in the movie than say a final girl would.
Right. And that's why I think I wanted to do this list, because it's a lot different than what the normal final girl trope is with this one. So
Yeah.
while we're there, Kainan, you want to give us your number 9?
Okay. Yeah. Shaun from Shaun of the Dead. This movie, his character, I love how human he is. And even though it's super funny, I mean, everybody, when you think of Shaun of the Dead, you think about how funny the movie is, but there, especially towards the end of that movie, there's a real human side of him that comes out, and it like just really gives depth to that role that he plays in it. And it's because, yeah, it is slapstick. It is silly through a lot of it, but I think just that character in general, like he ultimately survives because of his heart kind of thing. It's almost like, yeah, he accidentally survives through a lot of it, but also it's kind of like the people that are sacrificing themselves in a way around him, and just the whole movie in general. Like, I don't know. He's just someone you really root for. And I think it doesn't matter if it's a final girl, final guy, whoever it is, the best ones are the ones that you just really, really root for, even if they're not the most badass, they're not like, they're kind of stupid and make some bad decisions or whatever. you know, they got to be likable, and you got to, the best ones are when you just find yourself really rooting for him. And I think he's definitely got that lovable nature to him, you know?
Oh yeah. And again, I think I've always said the worst part about Shaun of the Dead is the title, because people hear that and they think it's a spoof movie, and it's not. It's its own movie. It's got its own backbone, its own story. Love the film.
Yeah, but
she's spoken for, mister.
The name does kind of, the name is kind of fitting though. I mean, I get marketing wise, it's not the best name, but I mean, it really is a fitting name, especially when you think about how there had been like a pretty long span without zombie movies. Like they had kind of died out, and it's like it is a little bit spoofy, but it is also paying tribute to, you know, Dawn of the Dead and all those legendary 1970s and 80s and into the 90s zombie movies. So I mean, I don't know. I guess I kind of love the name, even though you're right, it isn't the greatest, especially when for marketing purposes.
Whenever I ask people if they've seen Shaun of the Dead, they're like, "Isn't that spoof movie?" I'm like, "No, it is not a spoof movie. I promise."
Geez, man, we
real
got
quick,
people dropping some money right now. Damn.
GPE weirdness, always about that. So thank you so much, Leslie, for your donation. It really does mean a lot.
Guys, I not to derail the stream, but Real Spoilers just donated $50, and he says, "Do you hear the Jaws theme playing?" So,
well, thank you.
Yeah, they've come out to support you, and in honor of that, I have to unfortunately put on a goddamn shark costume right now. So I'll be right back.
Well, hey, you want to give us your number 9 before you do, and then
yeah, I'll do it quick. Number 9 for me.
Real Spoilers. Thank you so much. That seriously is super incredible of you.
I had a feeling they do this to me. Anywhere I go, if they donate $50, I have to put a costume on. So I'll do that while you guys talk. But
man, I need to start something like that. Damn,
yeah, that's a nice strategy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
$50.
So my number 9 is Poindexter Fool Williams. I don't know if anyone in the chat knows who that is.
Oh yeah.
My wife's favorite movie, baby.
So growing up, it was the one Wes Craven film that I always avoided. I don't know what it was about it, but when I was a young kid, it used to really get under my skin because it kind of reminded me of the same neighborhood I lived in. And I didn't like the idea of this giant house being in a neighborhood that I lived in that you could potentially get trapped inside of. And I also hated the name of the movie, The People Under the Stairs. So every time I go down the staircase, it scared the shit out of me. So those two things are important. But the character himself, he's such a good-natured kid who just wants to help out his family. And he goes through the most hell out of everybody in the whole story. And I love, I just recently got in a 4K maybe last year. And man, it's glorious watching that, especially with Wes Craven gone. It's just like, wow. Yeah, you basically almost every movie you made was incredible. And People Under the Stairs is definitely up there. What do you got there? Oh, there you go.
Nice. Yeah,
that's his favorite movie of all time.
We all grew up with one of those houses in our neighborhoods too. Like that, it was either haunted or there was something creepy about it. There was, an old man that lived there that looked weird, or everybody had that one house that had its lore to it that you're always just afraid of. So I think that kind of relies on a little bit of that too.
Well, it's just the name too, The People Under the Stairs. I was like, what the hell is this movie about? And I remember the trailer. You see the hands coming from the stairs.
Yeah,
that scared the shit out of me. By the way, the long legs poster you have is amazing. I'm coming to your house to steal it. Anyways, I'm put my costume on.
Yep, you go do your thing, man. Cody, you want to give us your number 9?
My number 9 is going to be Casey from The Faculty, Elijah Wood's role.
Nice, cool.
Massive fan of The Faculty. To me, it's like one of the horror fans seem to always love it, but it's just one of those movies of that post-Scream era that seems to get forgotten for some reason. But Casey's one of those characters, kind of the more extreme version of Alex, where he literally is the nerd archetype, where they open the movie with him getting his balls smashed in. So he's the bottom of the totem pole, and yet he's the one at the end who has to literally save the world. And I like how throughout the movie you kind of see his you see him kind of grow his balls back, I guess, from the beginning of the movie, where he's going against certain people. He's going against his parents. He's the one calling bullshit on all the teachers and drawing everybody's attention to it, ends up being right. And even though like all the stronger personalities in the room all try to dominate the situation throughout the movie at different points, he's always the one quietly in the back who's just listening to everything and getting all the information. And by the end, it's him versus this giant queen alien, and he reigns supreme. So I think he's a great character. I think it's a shame, even though it's great as a one-off, I think it's a shame that this had franchise potential and for whatever reason just didn't make what they wanted to make to actually follow through with that. But I think he's a great character.
The word
Do you consider that? Do you consider that more a horror movie or a sci-fi movie?
I think it's a nice mix of both. I could hear an argument that would make sense for either one. I think some of my favorite movies of all time kind of
like
the gap
Alien,
between
the
multiple genres. Yeah,
because every time, I don't know what it is though, but every time I cover that movie and I talk about it, I get shit that that's a sci-fi movie. Like,
I can't stand people the fucking subgenre gatekeepers. I can't stand that.
Every single week, man. Every week.
Alien
what
and
I do.
What movie?
Horror movies.
The Faculty.
Oh, The Faculty's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Yep. Love it. See, that's the problem with this list, dude. It was
Bruce
so
JKB
hard
over there.
It was so hard to come up with this list because there's so many of these that I like. It's not one that you normally hear about or think about. So all these ones you guys are mentioning, I'm like, fuck, I totally forgot about that one.
Yeah, well, there's like way too many movies to think about when you think about like a top 10. How are you going to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, it's hard to research lists like this. That's why every time you come at me with one of these, I'm always like, damn it. You always come up with the most like the director one.
I know as I'm texting you guys, I'm like, ha ha ha, I'm going to make them do homework.
But I don't mind the homework. I just don't know where to go per se. It's like, it's not like there's this book you can just sit there and leaf through that'll list every final guy, and you're just like, so I have to go watch other people's videos and look at other people's lists, and then of course there's ones that jump to mind right away. There's some big ones that are your favorites, but when you're trying to, because when I put lists like this together, I try not to stick to just simply my like what I personally think are my favorites, but also the ones I think are the best. That makes sense. Like everybody has kind of a different way of doing these lists. Like, and for me, I always try to mix kind of the two. So it's like they're my favorites and ones that I actually think are the best. And it's a tricky thing because it's like my favorite movie of all time is Phantasm, but I wouldn't put it in the top 50 best movies ever made. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think The Thing is the best horror movie ever made, but yet it's not my number one Phantasm movie. So it's like a weird thing like that. So anyway,
that's what makes these lists so much fun. Hearing all the different, perspectives. And my number 9 is, we're talking about vampires with Abigail all weekend. We're going to go vampire here Fright Night. I'm going Charlie. I absolutely love this movie. I was never a huge fan of the vampire subgenre of horror. It was never really my thing. I kind of felt like they were all, carbon copy paste, drink blood, turn into a vampire, stake in the heart, it's over. This movie to me is just absolutely phenomenal. I love every character in this movie. Evil Ed was me in high school as he was like that. I was that annoying little shithead that got on everyone's nerves, and always been a huge fan of Fright Night. And Charlie in general, there's certain things that he does, like the pencil in the hand, and just the way that he is there to comfort Ed and be there for Ed. I've always been a big fan of Charlie, and I've always been a big fan of the movie. So number 9 for me, I'm going to go with Charlie from Fright Night. Jay, before we get into your number 8, we do got a couple donations. Thank you very much, Juicy Booch. Appreciate it. Oh, see, we got another Sawa here. I wonder if we're going to talk about that one again later. Jay's cat has diarrhea. Sup, Ghost Pirate, big fan. I can't get over how amazing you look right now, Jay. Like, I can't.
I'm sweating just looking at
diarrhea.
No.
Thanks for attaching my name to the cat having diarrhea comment.
Well, Thank you.
Everybody making donations. Thank you. Like it is extremely.
Like I tried to warn you
and
at the beginning
means
here.
a
I'm
lot.
like, I'm sure people are going to come and all these really weird donations are, yeah. Just I don't even know. I'm wearing a goddamn shark costume, so.
Honestly, the person lives in the creepy house. The neighbors make. Yeah, that is goals. I could see that being you too, Dice. Got some love for the faculty. Scout from Scout's Guide to the Apocalypse. I love all these shark emojis that are going on. We got shark and shrimp emojis all over the chat right now.
Faculty at the
Got a
end
Cody
had
fan?
used practical effects.
Yeah, with the creature, that would have been great.
Because to me, there's effects throughout the movie that are not the greatest, but they still do okay. It's just that final climactic scene and that CGI. It was just half baked. It's not ready to be out.
Although I
broad daylight yet.
I just watched it recently, and when the teacher gets her head cut off and she's like, her head's
running around,
that's not that bad. Looking back,
that's what I'm saying. Like some of the effects are okay. They're not the worst. You're not, but like that final scene when the creature comes out of the swimming pool, it's just it's so bad. You're just like, oh.
Cody saw you at MegaCon this year and played Helldivers 2 with you a few times. That's sick. Jay, watch out for the giant shrimp. It'll give you the gout.
Where's Helldivers?
Babe, where's my giant shrimp?
It's basically Starship Troopers, the game.
Oh, what?
That's awesome.
Mm.
It's telling me that memberships are being gifted. Mr. Awesome, thank you so much. It does not tell me who got them.
PlayStation and Xbox and PC. Or no, PlayStation and PC.
No,
damn, it's not on Xbox.
Not yet.
That's probably why I haven't heard of it.
Now, for the rest of the stream, I have to play it straight. Like I'm not holding a giant shrimp in it.
Giant shrimp.
Now you got a shrimp?
Yeah. Very much, Mr. Awesome. That's so cool.
You have to come to my
over there.
You have to come. Yeah, I do. You have to come to one of my streams one day to see the lunacy that happens. But anyway.
Oh God.
Yeah, I haven't even, like, to be totally honest, I had not seen your channel, so I have to.
No, it's fine.
Go check your channel.
Not many people.
That's why we do this, so we can learn about each other and go check it out. You're gonna love it.
Decent sized channel. Like I quickly just was like, oh, who's this? But I didn't get a chance to watch.
I was lucky to work with Jay a couple years ago. We've kept in contact since then, and I'm really happy that we've been able to do this for so long and stay. That's what I love about doing this is the connections that you make and the friends that you get to have forever.
Speaking of which, I finally have a role for you in a project coming up where you could do it from where you live.
Hell yeah, I'm excited. I'd love it.
Yeah.
I gotta know, what did you guys think of the Trap trailer?
Oh, I love it.
Totally sold me.
Well, my producer,
I'm ready. I'm down. I like that it didn't really feel like it gives away much. And with an M. Night movie, I'm always nervous when there's a trailer because it's like his movies rely so heavily on twists and wrinkles that it's like I feel like it's pretty easy to even just one little shot could give you enough of an idea that you're like, and I think that it's nice that it also didn't try to throw you off. It just kind of shows you this is this, because like some of his trailers, like The Village, remember back in the day, like people went into expecting this creature feature and then when it twists and it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And yet the trailer made it look that way, and through the first half of the movie, you're thinking that, so you're super disappointed. Like I'd rather just kind of go in and because like Abigail is a good example, and I've said this in my review where I thought the trailer wasn't the worst at giving things away, but halfway through that movie, I thought, "Fuck, dude, they're showing me everything." Because for the first half of that movie, it's like, it feels like you've already seen a lot of it, but I'd rather, at least in that case, they front loaded it. So if you're going to show a lot of a movie, front load it, like don't, and that's a tricky movie because how do you not give away that it's, this little girl is a vampire? Like, how do you not give that away in a trailer? You kind of have to.
You can't market that movie without showing it. That's why I've been kind of frustrated since its release, where a lot of people have been like very aggressively like the trailer ruined the movie. The movie sucked because I knew it was a vampire, and I'm like, I knew it was a vampire, but the movie worked perfectly fine that way. Like, I don't know how you market that film without showing that. There's so many more twists and turns.
And I said that to one of the people that commented on my channel today, the same thing. And I said, I think there's still plenty of twist. Like I thought it did plenty of things, like I said, in that second half, and especially in the final act, that I didn't see coming. Like I didn't feel like, but I didn't see the second trailer. I watched the second trailer while editing the video, and the second trailer does give away, I felt like, more of it than the first one.
The second trailer for any movie is going to give away too much. I try to preach to people all the time, like with horror, ever since
peek if you can, and then
don't
even watch a full trailer.
The art of a teaser trailer is kind of dead, but when we do get those are fine. But ever since Sinister, I actively avoid horror trailers. If you sell me on the premise, I'm there. I don't want to know anything else, with a few exceptions. But if they, past the first trailer, at that point, they're just selling you the movie in 2 minutes. So people, I try to tell people that all the time. They're like, I watched 8 trailers. And I'm pissed. I knew the whole movie. I'm like, well, what the fuck? Watch one and stop.
Well, did you watch the Trap trailer or no?
I did.
Yeah.
And that one's another one where I've seen people be like, why'd they give it away? And I'm like, well, I doubt that's a twist. That's probably something that's revealed in 10 minutes, which would I have preferred to walk into the movie not knowing that at a film festival or something? Sure. But they have to market it that way.
What are you got to have some idea what the movie's about. Like, why would you go see a movie if all they say is it's a father and daughter at a concert and something weird happens?
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to go see that. They have to give you something. So that's, like, I understand the whole marketing and cutting a trailer. Like, it's tricky. It's very, very tricky. But because, like, Spooky Astronaut, she famously doesn't watch any of the trailers. Like, she won't watch any of them. And I'm like, maybe it's just because I'm getting old, but I have learned to kind of forget. It's like I'll watch it early on when the trailer's first released, and then I just kind of put it out of my head. And so most of the stuff just doesn't really stick, and I'm able to go see the movie and not really, of course there's a few little key moments that I'll remember, but for the most part, like, maybe it's just me getting old. It doesn't affect me as much. I don't know.
Right.
For me, I think,
I don't know. It's a movie I'm very excited for, but I agree. You're not going to do much with this movie without spoiling a little something. Thank you again.
I was just going to say, I think the premise of this film is you go into an M. Night movie and you get this big twist at the end, of course, right? He's doing something else here because he's like, hey, here's the twist in the trailer. Deal with it now. What are you going to do now? I think it's really smart marketing for.
He did that with Old, though, and there still was a twist.
So that's I think there'll be something deeper, but
Knock at the Cabin didn't really have a twist. I mean,
it needed one.
Well, that wasn't his story, right? This is like,
no, but I mean, that's the big negative. I think M. Night is pretty smart, and I do feel like he does kind of listen to people to a certain extent. And that movie was well done, but I agree with Cody. It needed a twist. It needed something in that final act to be like a big bang, because instead it just kind of went out with a whimper. And I thought it was really well acted, well written. Like, I thought it looked good. It didn't have any kind of a hook, any kind of something that, So I just watched Split. I just watched Split on Netflix because it's on Netflix right now. And I don't know if I'd ever seen it. I feel like I had started to watch it, but I don't think I ever watched it. And I was just like, damn, that's up there with one of his very best. Like, that movie is so good.
I love Split.
Well, if you go back,
thank you. I don't know who got the memberships, but hope you enjoy them. You can go watch our review for Baghead now for members only.
Viper Eyes, thanks, dude.
Nah, I watched that last night too.
So
Baghead was.
All right, guys, we will now move on to our number 8, and that will be Jay starting us off.
Like I said, I'm not going in any order here because there's I just picked 10 great ones. I'm just going to go with Tommy Jarvis now, Friday the 13th final chapter. I mean, to outsmart Jason the way he does in that final scene, I think it's one of the smartest moves that somebody did when they went up against Jason. If you look at all of the other finishers for the whole franchise, his is so clever, and he also lives in that world,
Right.
And he's a fan of horror. So he lives in that world. He understands what he's in. He's in a horror movie. So he basically turns himself into the monster. And I was just like, wow, this is a great little twist. So Tommy Jarvis, final chapter, all the way.
Great choice. Absolutely great choice. What about
Also,
you,
I love Corey Feldman.
Yeah.
right. Yeah. What about you, Cody? What's your number 8?
My number 8 is Jim Halsey from The Hitcher. So we're going to bring it back to that. The Hitcher was always one of my favorites growing up. And if we're going to stick to the spirit of not spoiling it, what I love about Jim Halsey's character is that he has a very deliberate character arc throughout the movie. Like, it could very much just be a guy thrown into this situation of chaos, which Rutger Hauer's character pretty much embodies. But what I love about the movie is that as many times as I've seen it, like, there's so much about it that is just not clearly stated. It's all just subtle. It's all things that you could pick up on and kind of interpret certain ways. And very much so, it feels like Rutger Hauer's character is like challenging him to be a man, essentially. Like, it's time to graduate to adulthood. And he resists that all the way up to the third act until that act happens between the two trucks. And then from that point, it's like, that's the straw that broke. And then the third act comes and he finally just has to rise up and go through certain things and just end this situation at all costs. And C. Thomas Howell is awesome in it. I think that it's a great movie, but he's just a great character. Don't watch The Hitcher 2.
Yeah.
Did they just do a recent remake of The Hitcher as well?
Yeah.
It wasn't recent. I was in high school, but it was with Sean Bean, and it's watchable, but it's one of those remakes that's basically like, let's take the same script and let's take 90% of the same shots and do it again. But we're gonna up the gore, and it's not as effective with extra gore. It's more effective not seeing it.
Yeah, especially the car scene.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's a scene that just rocks you to the core. So I completely agree.
Like the same bullshit they're doing with Speak No Evil.
Yeah. We'll
I'm so
the
done with
sanitization of
Blumhouse.
that movie is going to be insane, but
it's kind of weird, eh?
My wife brought it up in the chat earlier, but Jim Norman, Sometimes They Come Back. My favorite Stephen King adaptation to film.
You skipped me.
Huh?
He goes at
Just
different
get me.
orders. He goes at different orders. You're next.
Yeah, you'll be next.
Oh, okay.
So like with this one, growing up, this movie genuinely shocked and scared the hell out of me. And when you have the Run Jimmy Run scene, and then everything he goes through, losing his brother, going back to this town, being a teacher, doing all those things, and then to still end up on top with a haunted bunch of teenagers trying to get him. It's just an amazing adaptation of one of Stephen King's short stories made for TV. If you're going to remake a movie, I would love to see Sometimes They Come Back remade, because obviously, like I said, a made for TV movie, to have that in an actual with a good budget cinematic release, I think could be amazing. So number 8 for me, I'm going to go with Jim Norman. Sometimes They Come Back. Love the movie. Still, like I said, one of my favorite King adaptations of all time. So what about you, Kainan? What's your number 8?
That's why I was cracking up. It's Tommy Jarvis. That's my number 8 as well. So that's why I was laughing when you said it. Yeah, I really related to that character, like as a kid. Like, I think it's one of the things that makes it so great is because none of us are supposed to be watching that movie when you're right around that age, but yet, they knew making that movie that, the majority of people that were watching that were like 11, 12-year-old, boys. And it's just such a relatable character, like being into horror, being into The Mask. And here he is, it's like all these adults and everybody else can't stop Jason, but here's this kid. And it just, it's a really magical kind of role, in my opinion. It's like one of my favorite kid performances in a horror movie. So yeah, love that movie.
My favorite part of his performance in that movie is when he looks out and sees the chick changing.
Yeah.
And this has such a natural,
jumps on the bed,
perfect reaction that a kid that age would have. And it's almost like they actually put real tits outside, because there's no way you can just make up the reaction he had. I'm like, that's it. That's exactly
what your emotions are like. He wants to see him, but he knows he's not supposed to.
Yeah.
He's so excited.
He's like something else. It's so great.
That was every single one of us
as
little kids right there. I agree. Members, watch the video. It'll be live to the public next weekend. It is definitely a movie. Arkin from The Collector, great choice.
What are you talking about?
Baghead.
Oh yeah, I watched it last night. I was.
It exists.
Yeah.
It was in focus.
Huh?
I said it was in focus. It's
Yeah,
usually
definitely was in
go-to.
focus.
That's the go-to if you don't have anything to say.
I didn't think it was super bad, and the final act really, to me, that movie was where it kind of lost steam, and then
I won't say what lost
budgetary
me because,
restraints.
I don't want to spoil it, but one of the big spoilers is what lost me. I was like, there's no fucking way that just happened for that.
Yeah,
I never
there was
heard
a lot
about it
of
until tonight.
I like Sometimes They Come Back. It's such a good movie, and it's available for free on YouTube right now if you guys haven't seen it.
Did you? I think they were talking about the sequel. Do you like the sequel? Sometimes They Come Back Again.
Oh, Sometimes They Come Back Again. I
don't think I've ever seen the
it.
sequel.
I've seen all three of them. I've seen Again and For More, but I can't remember them to save my fucking life, man.
I just remember Again being significantly gorier.
Yeah,
because when I was a
I'll
kid,
have to check it
I
out.
loved the original, and then the sequel has, if I'm not mistaken, it's got like Hilary Swank or somebody in it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I know it has. Oh shit, what the hell's her name? Arquette. Alexis
Patricia?
Arquette. No, it was Alexis
Alexis.
Arquette before they transitioned. But I remember there being like thumbs cut off, and there's like somebody gets their head cut off with a lawnmower. Like it's the original concept, but gore fest, at least for the 90s.
And you didn't have to do that for that type of movie. You know, like that type of movie, you don't have to have a gore fest to make that type of movie work. So, all right, so guys, we're up to number 7, and that will be Cody starting us off.
Me again. My number 7 is going to be Brody from Jaws. Jaws, I mean, I don't really need to sell anybody on Jaws. There you go. Got a cameo. But what I love about Brody is that he's the least experienced and the least expert of the crew that he's with. Like you got the marine biologist, you got the shark hunter. He's just the sheriff that thinks the mayor's full of shit. That's why he's there. But by the end of it, he ends up having to be the one to bring it all home. So it's a great character arc. It's a fantastic movie. I love, like, he's got all the best moments and lines. I love that, like the zoom that they do on him on the beach. I get the, we're going to need a bigger boat. He gets this bond going with them, and then just it's easy to forget how quick the third act of that movie is because it's so deliberately paced. And then all of a sudden it's just like, the shark or the shark cage is crushed, and then Quint gets killed, and then all of a sudden you're sinking in the water, and smile, son of a bitch. So it's all in like 8 minutes. But yeah, I mean,
yeah, sure. I never thought about that. As soon as they have that scene inside the boat, and
where they're singing and drunk and shit.
Yeah, he's like, and then they went into this. They went in the
How
water.
long is it?
Like
how long is like after that? How much?
I think it's only like 20 minutes because remember, as soon as they do that, they wake up, they go to bed essentially because that's nighttime. Actually, you know what? They don't even sleep technically. And it's like, it must be 5 or 6 in the morning. And that's where Jaws shows up. And then that whole scene wraps up pretty quick.
Because they already have 2 of the things hooked to him at that point.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. By the way, I love that story about how they wrote that, that little speech that he gives at the end. Yeah. How, Spielberg said that he had a 2 pages of dialogue to give to the actor, and he couldn't figure it out. They couldn't figure the story out. So they called John Milius, and John Milius wrote that scene you see in the movie over the phone.
That's awesome.
That's an unbelievable story to me.
It is, because that's the standout scene of the movie.
It's one of my favorite behind the scenes movies too. Like when you hear there's so many stories on how that movie came together, and like so many things that could have went wrong, should have went wrong, things that did go wrong, but that led it to almost like the fact that you don't see Bruce much because it was just, a mess, like it wasn't working right. And yet that ends up being probably if not the number one thing that makes that movie. Like, because if you had seen Bruce, that movie's it's not anywhere near, I don't think, as intimidating as it is if you had seen it a lot more. Yeah. But because a lot of the shots are just kind of it underwater and you don't get really good looks at it. What the hell is going on with my light?
Yeah, no, I agree. It was a happy accident for sure. Yep. And that's one of the reasons, one of the many reasons, there's lots of others, but that's one of the reasons why, in my opinion, they haven't had a shark movie since that's even come close to being as good as Jaws.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah.
They show you way too much of the sharks.
Yep. And it's not, it takes the fear away from it. So my number 7 is probably the newest addition to the list, and it's going to be Finney from the Black Phone. The shit that this kid goes through throughout the movie, and we just talked about it on our Abigail review. In the Abigail review, we talked about how you have like Amy Donald, who played Megan, you have the McGraw sisters from the Black Phone, from Megan, you have Amelie McLean from Terrifier 2, and now you have Alicia Weir in Abigail. You have all these younger kids that are really on the forefront of the newer horror movement. And then in the Black Phone, you have Mason Thames as well, who is right there in the forefront with Violet McGraw. And the kids in this movie go through so much.
Yeah, Violet's incredible. Her performance in that abuse scene with the dad.
Yes.
Like, holy crap.
Extremely uncomfortable. Extremely uncomfortable.
Just a hell of an acting performance.
Mason
no matter
Thames,
what
he
age
goes through in the movie to try to stay alive, and the things that he has to see and go through is just absolutely ridiculous. So I had to put him on the list. So yeah, number 7 for me is going to be Finney from the Black Phone.
That's another movie that was just completely ruined for me by the trailer. Because like that movie, it's not just that they show you everything, but it's literally beat for beat in the same order that it actually happens in the movie. I mean, it's just, and that's just the first trailer. Like,
that's don't watch Blumhouse trailers, because Jason Blum came out, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, and he literally said like, I know the criticism, but guess what? I see the numbers, and when I do this, we make more money, so that's how it's going to stay. Essentially, it wasn't quite as dickish as that, but I know if
it
it's
was
a
pretty
Blumhouse
close.
movie,
I wouldn't be surprised. I heard he's a bit forceful in the way he speaks to people.
Yeah,
but at least he's, you know what? The thing I got to say about Jason Blum, though, at least he's honest about it. Like, he doesn't. I'd almost rather, like, if you're a kind of a slimy piece of shit, just trying to make money or whatever, at least be honest about it. Like, I hate these people that act like they're all about for the love of the art and blah, blah, blah. But then you're like, no, you're fucking not. No, you're not. Like, just don't try to feed me that line of shit. Like,
right.
But yeah.
And like I said, they know how to do business. Whether you love or you hate the movies, they're still making a lot of fucking money.
I mean, look at Paranormal Activity. They pop one out and they're like, how much do we make? Oh, yeah, 100 million. Let's do the next one. Yep. You know, until they eventually did drive it into the ground, but you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's that's what horror does. They beat a dead horse. I mean, we've seen it numerous times over again.
No, horror doesn't do that. Producers do that. Studios do that. Horror doesn't, and the artists don't do that, and the filmmakers don't do that. Like, those are all the people that I'm always championing. I don't give a fuck about the studios or the producers. Like, I know they got to make their money, and that's what they do, and that's fine. You know what I mean? Like, I understand. It's just like as bad as Night Swim was, and as bad as Imaginary was. It's like, I get it. Like, dude, Blumhouse, that's how they make their money. They make their money from those stupid shit teen movies. And then the only problem I have is if they start making just that shit. Like, to this point, it's like they make those movies, they kind of bankroll them being able to do these other ones. Like, we have The Wolfman coming out early next year. Like, as long as they keep bankrolling, you know, some more serious, legit horror movies, as much as I hate those movies and I hate that I have to cover those movies, I get it and I'm okay with it because it's kind of the nature of the beast. It's kind of like with what's A24 is talking about, how they have to start up in their game and doing these, you know, like with Civil War, like doing a little bit bigger blockbuster kind of movies to try to make some money. Yeah, to keep making these art house. Like, that's fine. Like,
well, it's the same thing as, like, it's the same thing in video. I'm also in video games on my channel, but it's the same thing as Sony. You know, back in the day with PlayStation 1, they'd make 10 games. They'd have the money to make 10 games, and they'd cross their fingers that 2 of them would pay for the rest of them. So it's essentially the same thing in horror, right? But let's not forget, like, without Freddy, we would never have gotten Lord of the Rings trilogy. You know, so it sometimes it goes well for studios, New Line Cinema, right? Not all the time, but
it goes both directions, because the small indie horror that costs less than $1 million and makes 100 and something, you know, this is really what the kind of the backbone of Hollywood in general is based on. Like, those are the movies that they don't lose money. Like, they lose money from, you know, you have an Indiana Jones come out and lose like God, just
147 million.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen all kinds of numbers, but yeah, I mean, it lost a shit ton. And there's a bunch of movies that we've been seeing in the last few years, but yet, you know, what can you rely on? That's, you know, Smile coming out, you know, Barbarian, X, like all these movies that cost barely anything and make, you know, 20 million, 50 million, 100 million. So,
well, we do have the Blair Witch Project reboot coming.
They are not happy about that, man.
Let's just talk about it super quick. I had known about this before it was about to happen because I'm friends with somebody who just worked with Michael from the film. But
yeah.
I had known behind the scenes that like the cast was not happy with Lionsgate, but I never imagined they would do what they just did on the internet like 2 days ago. So I'm proud of them because they're like, where's our goddamn money? We did the movie. Like, you know, because I remember.
Hold on, what are you referring to? What am I missing?
So Blair Witch Project, the original cast just came out after they announced the remake, and they basically said, listen, guys, we hate to do this, but we're going to do it. We've got 0 residuals from the original film from Lionsgate. We've had no creative input. They said we had no.
How have their contracts were they signed at the time were like a one lump sum money done?
Well, I don't know the fine details of what the contracts were because there's people saying like, hey, they signed contracts, so that's the deal. But that's not necessarily the deal. They are owed residuals for the films. And of course, Lionsgate has given them nothing, like not even a penny. And also they've avoided, you know, Joshua has been trying to put together a Blair Witch screening to benefit like children in film. And they've ignored him for like 20 years or whatever it's been. And he's in the movie. He shot the movie with his own hands and they've ignored him. They haven't paid him. So it's crazy to see the remake gets announced, but then the actors are like, yeah, we're not signing off on this one.
I knew they were pissed. I did know that.
They also didn't get a cent from their names being used in the sequel or the sequel after that. So they got,
you know what, as uncool as that is, a small part of me blames them for just now coming out and talking about this. Like, why haven't they filed a lot? Like, here's my issue with Lionsgate. Like, for instance, like last summer when Cobweb came out and they completely fucked over that movie. And I talked to the director and he's just like, you know, they're just not promoting it. But I'm like,
what's that about?
What the fuck, dude? Like, why are you guys like, social media is a thing. Like, why don't you at the very least, you know, like fight for yourself a little bit? I'm not saying you got to always take it to court. And I'm not even saying you got to make a huge stink online about it, but say a little something. Don't just roll the fuck over and let these studios do this shit.
I also think like you got to be careful, you know,
blackballed.
The director of the Black Phone just said this on Twitter the other day. He's like, hey, all of these up and coming filmmakers, you need to know this. He's like, you could make $100 million for a studio, but they're always trying to cycle you out. So it doesn't matter if you've made them 100 million, 10 million. They will literally be like, what do you got next? Okay, you're out of here. If you're not stepping up and delivering immediately. So even he said that, and he directed the Black Phone. You know, he did a huge Marvel movie. He's saying like, yeah, if you don't take these things, that's why I think
that's even more why you got to fight for yourself.
Totally. I think it's a fine line though, right?
You see, it's one of the things that drives me crazy is you see Actors Guild and you see them stick together and you see the Writers Guild and they stick together and this and that, but you don't see directors stick together. You don't see filmmakers in general stick together. There's almost like this, I don't know, like the fight. It kind of reminds me of the way YouTubers are, where they just kind of fucking the ride solo. You got your little circle and you hang out with these and that's about it. Everybody else is just like, fuck you. I'm not going to share what I know. I'm not going to like, you know what I mean? Like there's this being on an island kind of bullshit that you see a lot. And
well, I think it's because the opportunities are slim. So people are not.
But I just don't think it needs to be that way. I think with any art, if you stick together and you, you know, like look at hip hop or music in general, but especially hip hop, they fucking cross promote everything. Like every single hip hop artist brings up another 10, huh?
Aren't they? Isn't there huge like Drake beef happening right now?
That's part of hype.
That's part of the marketing, right?
Yeah, that's part of the marketing.
But I do have.
Well, what I'm saying is they always work together. Like, you know, you see Baby No Money, and he's in every single other rapper's music videos and on their songs, and vice versa. I mean, you bringing up all these people, you're like, who the fuck is that? And like pulling them up with him. And I'm not saying like everybody's got to be that way, but like just a little bit, guys, like a little bit of. So like I appreciate. What the hell's his name? The director of Black Phone.
Scott Derrickson.
Scott Derrickson. Yeah. I appreciate someone like him because he's got some clout in the industry. And by coming out and saying things like that, it goes a long way with these young filmmakers, you know, that are getting their first movie or getting like $1 million to make something or whatever, like kind of being like, you know, this is kind of the industry. Like you got to be ready for what is to come. I mean, like,
you know, I'm currently in the middle of like shooting. I don't know if you guys know the movie A Nature of Violence. You guys heard of that? So the lead guy in that who played, I'm not going to give too much away, but the guy that plays the killer in that, I'm shooting a short film with him right now.
Nice.
And we've had discussions about stuff. Like I'm a filmmaker behind the scenes as well. And I appreciate what you're saying, but at the end of the day, like I know I could name 20 people right now that would step on my neck to be in my position. So it's like, I could be nice to people and I try to be nice to everybody, but everyone is like in this business is just like stabbing each other constantly.
But I'm not saying be nice. I'm just simply saying like have some balls and like stick up for yourself, but also for the industry in general. And it's like, I'm not saying you always gotta be like handing out shit to everybody or pulling everybody with you or whatever, but just like these artists. And it seems like filmmakers are the ones I see that remind me the most of modern art. And this is what drives me crazy about it, because I was in the modern art world for the last over 10 years. And artists are the worst at just being like, almost like, throw me on the cross, I'll die for my art. And filmmakers, especially the indie ones, and especially in horror, seem to kind of have that way. And it doesn't have to be that. Like, you can stick up for yourself, you can make money, you can fight for what you believe in and all that, and yet still be true to your art and still, you know what I mean?
No, I totally get what you're saying. I wish it was like that, you know?
Right. Yeah, before we get way out of left field, actually,
too late.
We're up to you at number 7.
Oh, yeah, we're talking about Blair Witch.
You brought me on the podcast, dude. This is what I do.
No, you're good, man.
I do real shit, man. I love to talk about horror.
I do have to say one thing, though, just like super quick. I'm sorry, but if you're going to remake anything, you don't remake the Blair Witch Project.
Fuck yeah.
In 2024. Are you guys, they don't understand. They don't understand the fucking marketing and how that even grew to be what it was.
It only worked for that time. That is as much as any movie out there, it was a movie of its time. So it's like, to me, we already saw a remake of it, so to speak, with we've already seen a few of them with movies that are using your tablet, Zoom, because that's basically a modern day kind of Blair Witch style filmmaking. And we saw it with Paranormal Activity. Like, that's how you do it. You just come up with a new spin.
Well, you saw it with Wingard's film. That was a sequel, but it was technically a modern version of what Blair Witch would be.
Yeah, it was.
And so I don't know. I'm one of those rare people that don't like the original film. I was not part of the initial hype of like, is this real? Is it not? That's the legacy to me, is the genius of marketing. I don't think the film stands up beyond that. So there's just many reasons why it doesn't make sense. I don't think anybody wants it.
Cody, if you were 16 when that movie dropped, like I was, the movie would stand up because they're one and the same.
Well, it came out in what, 99?
Cody, how old? Well, not to put you on the spot, but how old were you? Kind of, when that website went live for the Blair Witch Project? Do you remember visiting that when you were a kid?
Was it 1999?
Yeah.
I was 9 years old. I didn't even have access to the internet.
So there you go. That I'm not downplaying what you're saying right now, and it didn't connect with you, but I'm telling you, with Kane, dude, we were young. We were at that age where you went to the fucking website and it scared the shit out of you because you thought
we didn't know the internet could lie.
Yeah.
Like, as silly as
Right.
that sounds to anybody now, it's like genuinely the shit on AOL that we were reading, like people took it and ran with it. It's what ended up turning into creepypasta. It's what,
Yeah.
you know, it's the back rooms. Like all this stuff starts with the Blair Witch. And so as much as I agree with Cody, as far as like, as just a movie, is it, you know, that amazing?
It actually was the
Eh.
first movie. Yeah, it was the first movie, and I think Kane will agree with me, where it created an atmosphere outside of the movie for me.
Yep.
Like Jurassic Park was a spectacle to go see at the theater. You got your popcorn, you're there with your family, it blows your mind, you leave the theater. There's no dinosaurs outside. With Blair Witch Project, you got people coming up to you in the high school going, have you seen the goddamn website?
It was the conversations before you got to the theater and after you left the theater that made that movie something special.
And then
Because
lastly,
all of us for like weeks, it was like a couple months, I think, right? Until we finally started hearing, nah, these are just actors. And like, then they ended up doing interviews and shit. But like, we legitimately believed, like, and anybody that says they didn't, I'm not buying it, because you just did not. Like, you must have not been the right age or something. Because if I was in my 20s at the time, or 20s or whatever, I probably would have saw through it and be like,
it was a
they're
little
not
bit
gonna,
cheesy, right?
Yeah, they're not gonna show real people disappearing and shit on in a theater. But
I think the kicker to that whole thing was there's a website. You go to the website, you don't know what it is, and then you go to the movie. And you, at the end of the movie, you're so scared shitless because you still, after all of this time, have not seen the goddamn witch.
Yep.
And you
still have no answers.
Yeah, you have no answers, but you've
nothing to hang on to.
You've kind of made the witch up in your head. So now you're leaving the theater and you're scared shitless because.
And don't forget Sci-Fi having those documentaries too. Before the movie came out. Anyways, after it came out.
We're derailing the stream into like a fucking Blair Witch party here. But okay.
But it is. It's like I tell people, it's an experience. What makes the Blair Witch special and why Cody, it still holds strong for some of us is not because in a vacuum the movie is so amazing. It's because of the whole experience of it all.
See, Cody, I wish you could experience that. You know what I mean? Because that was like
it's Hooft.
Yeah.
It's just like what happened with Hooft in 2020. If we weren't all stuck watching TV on our laptops at the time, and using Zoom for business and whatever, I don't think Hooft is nearly as powerful. But because all of us were communicating through these laptops every day, and like all of a sudden here's this movie, especially for younger people. Like if you were 19, 20, 16 through 20 when Hooft came out in 2020, man, that movie is going to have a lasting impact.
Yeah, just I'll answer Jostler here quick. He says, you guys see Blair Witch doc on Sci-Fi then? Yes, that's another thing. Like the filmmakers were so smart with the Blair Witch Project because not only are we going to the website, all of a sudden you turn on your TV and there's this huge event, the Blair Witch.
Yep.
What is the Blair Witch? And
they had two. One that came out before the movie, so you were hyped for it, and then another one that came out after the movie was released. So after you saw the movie, you were still going back to Sci-Fi and watching the second.
Dude, and the fact that they came up with the story of Rustin Parr, the witch forced somebody to kill those children. Yep. I was so anyways, let's shut up about it. You know what? Kane and I are starting.
There's someone else here that can understand what I'm.
Kane and I are starting a fucking Blair Witch podcast tomorrow.
All right, is it mine? Whose turn is it?
I think it's mine. Number
7. Turn, Kane, for number 7.
Okay. It's me, number 7. Okay, so Mike Pearson from Phantasm. Phantasm is my favorite horror movie of all time, and Mike Pearson probably would have gone higher on this list if I didn't feel so biased by the fact that it's my favorite. And so I'm like, that's as high as I can put it because I just have such a soft spot for that movie and that performance. Like I wanted, he is to me what I wanted my life as a kid to be. Riding around motorcycles, driving a fucking 1970 Cuda, like, having a cool big brother, like just getting to run around at night, like without rules, like all of that. And then it just, but I mean, who didn't kind of in a weird way fantasize about being a kid and coming across something scary in a graveyard at night? Like, even though in reality it would suck, in your fantasy world as a kid, there's this exciting like idea of stumbling across some crazy shit, And And that's why as kids, you'll make mountains out of molehills. I mean, you'll be like hiking around with your buddy and you'll find a shoe and make up some weird story in your head that's a serial killer cut off or took the shoe, killed some kid and that's his shoe, or, you know what I mean? It's like, to me, that role and in this movie, it like really hit that nerve for me. So, yeah.
And again, it's one that really stands up. I was glad that somebody else had this on their list. So, and no, that's why I love these. Honestly, that's why I love doing this. It's so much fun to be able to hear, all the different opinions. And that's why we love to do it with so many different people. So I would never feel like that. I have such a good time.
It looks like the sharks
are
Cody. Me out right
Jade, do you want to give us your number 7?
Number 7, you guys are probably going to yell at me because, of what happened to this character. But I'm going with Dewey from Scream.
No, that works.
I mean, so obviously 1994 Scream, or 90, whenever I saw it originally.
95, I think.
It was 19. Well, I think I saw it on VHS first. I think it was 1996 when it was on VHS, and it came out in 95, maybe. If I'm wrong about that, you guys can kill me in the chat.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was 95.
It's 96.
It's 96 it came out, right? On VHS too. Yeah, I think so. Okay.
Yeah.
So the reason I'm picking him is just because of the sheer fact that at the time, that was the resurgence of 90s slashers, of course. Wes Craven revitalized the whole genre. And he did it with such a weird male character. He's like, we saw a lot of nerdy characters come out of the 80s who stepped up and became the final guys. But with Dewey, you could subtly, if you really pay attention to him, you always, and to this day, I still think that he would always downplay himself as a character. So he was really a smart guy, but he played into the stupidity just to kind of get with Gale a little bit there at the end. But as you watch him progress through the series, you see that he's always been smart, and he's always
and I think some of what came across as being stupid is more to do with being just sweet and loving and kind of an innocent kind of guy, and like not trying to be a badass. So there's a little bit of that. Plus, he's also super young in that first one.
Yeah, he's super young in there. I'll never forget the line, like, how do you know my dim-witted inexperiences in a subtle form of manipulation, therefore enhancing my ability to effectively maneuver in any given situation? Why do I know that line? Because I love Scream, but that line is the one line in Scream 2 that explains his character. He's playing stupid to gain an upper hand because he's also a police officer. So there you go. Dewey also, here's a little tidbit that a lot of people might not know, but the mother of Dewey and his sister in the original, Tatum, is played by the same mother from Gremlins, who puts the gremlin into the goddamn blender.
Yeah.
And the microwave.
Yeah, same
What
mother.
actress is that?
I forget her name at the moment. I was going to bring it up, but I could store the line I gave from Scream 2 in my head, but I can't.
Yeah. Isn't that funny how it works? Especially as you get older,
absolutely.
Your brain just decides what we're keeping and what we're not, and it doesn't always make sense.
Yeah, and like, how often do we talk about her? By the way, she's like that movie with her in the movie in the kitchen. That's so underrated in terms of just being talked about. It's like such an amazing scene, but we're not going to, because Kane and I will talk about Gremlins for 5 hours probably.
Troy, thank you. Cody's right. It sucked. At no time did I ever think it was real. See, I would think I was 12 or 13 when it came out. And I totally had
it. Okay, Cody didn't say it sucked either.
They had it.
Yeah, I did.
They had me
subtly. I didn't use the words.
Cody,
that's what I'm saying.
Like, I ask you why you think
you rarely say a movie sucked.
I'm not the audience for it. I don't like found footage movies. I can probably tell you 3 of them that worked for me. When I actually saw the film, like I said, I think the genius of the film was the marketing. I don't think it's very entertaining or interesting, but I know I'm on an island with that, but we don't need to, retread that territory. I'm just not the guy for it.
You just lost 20 subs. Let's go.
I honestly,
it was also Marty McFly's grandmother.
There's a lot of people that do not love Blair Witch. Like I think mostly it's people that are of the age of when it came out.
All right. So we are up to number 6. My first horror movie, still my favorite horror movie, House. I'm going with my boy Roger Cobb. Yes, I know he dies in part 4, but that movie's just ridiculous. And
Spoilers. No, I'm just kidding.
I was just gonna say
he
just
the way
ruined my
that you talk about what people go through. You know, he lost his son, he lost his aunt, he lost his wife. He's battling these monsters in this house. It's just, I don't know. I love it to death. It, like I said, it was my first horror movie. It's still my favorite horror movie. We just recently met William Catt at a convention, and he was the kindest, sweetest person. He made a video for my grandmother, who is also a huge House fan. She's who introduced me to horror and introduced me to House. And he made a really awesome video for her, which, you know, totally made my grandma's day. And it was just an amazing experience. So the movie still holds up. I still love it to this day. So number 6 for me, Roger Cobb from House. What about you, Kainan?
Oh, what are we at? 6. Pat from Green Room. I think Green Room is my favorite A24 movie. I also think it's probably the most underrated of the A24 movies. And this role that I looked, and I guess there's not even a last name listed. His name is just literally Pat in the movie. That's what I found. But he just plays one of those characters that you kind of, throughout a lot of the movie, you just almost like a Dewey in a way, where you just don't expect him to be able to go as hard as he has to and as he does ultimately in the movie, without spoiling things. But like, you know, he is strong. He's like mentally strong. He just does and what he has to do. And like it's not fitting his personality at all to do that. And I think that's what makes a great, like, some of the best characters in movies are ones that have to do things that are not of their nature, where they have to rise above. And like you were saying with the Hitcher, how he's kind of like forced to grow up, forced to man up, forced to and that's kind of what happens in this. But it's also just such a terrifying movie and role. Like, it feels hyper real. And like, I grew up around a lot of the skinhead neo-Nazis, and like, there's some pretty scary people. Like, I've seen them do some shit, and like, luckily I got away from all of that, but I was around enough of it to know, like, these are scary people, a lot scarier than a lot of people realize, and get away with a lot more than people realize. And so, yeah, I just think it's a fantastic movie and a really great role. And then, sadly, Anton Yelchin died super young. So I think that also has to do with, any role I see with him now, it just makes me appreciate him, I think, that much more, because we have such few roles. And, even movies that were kind of silly that he was in, he just dove so into each character he played.
Fright Night.
So, yeah, exactly. Like a movie that has no business being as good as it is, and he's a lot of the reason why that remake is as good as it is.
Yeah.
So, and I agree with you. I completely agree. I think that he was one of the bright spots of that movie that overall was not one of my favorites, but him and Toni Collette, I feel like, really stole the show in that. So I can completely agree with that. What about you, Jay? What are you putting at number 6?
You guys are gonna yell at me again. I'm going with Paul Rudd as Tommy Doyle from Halloween, Curse of Michael Myers.
I turn my back on you.
Now, the reason I'm putting him in here has nothing to do with the film. It's the fact that Paul Rudd had a career after being in Halloween, Curse of Michael Myers.
Yeah, I guess that is the true final guy, right?
What I mean, here, a fucking comedian.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine if you can do this and still get roles.
Oh, God! Oh, God!
How the hell did you have that ready?
Because I fucking hate that movie. Whenever someone says something I don't like, I usually play that.
Oh, I hate the movie too. The only reason why I bring that movie up is because Donald Pleasance is still in it, right? I got to give him respect for carrying that through, but the rest of the movie is just absolutely
very much retired.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly.
You talk about not the audience for it. I put Halloween 6 and The Exorcist 2 like right next to each other as movies that I'd rather punch myself in the balls than watch again.
Oh,
So,
Exorcist 2 is better. Heretic is definitely better.
I can't stand it. Can't stand
When
it.
was the last time you watched that movie? I don't think it's a good movie.
I had to watch it like
all.
a year ago. Ashley and I
But
had to
I
watch
think
it
that I think there's
ranking.
at least some interesting things that movie does. I don't.
It
I'm
takes
one of
a
the
lot
people
of
that
shit. It takes a lot of shit because what it did wrong. It did wrong
Yeah.
to do with Pazuzu, which was where it makes the mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, you
But
don't.
I thought it took some risks though, and like it tried some things, and I think they're kind of interesting. I'm not saying it's a good movie by any means.
Hey, but
like I'd rather a movie take some risk and chances than be boring. And it's not boring. It's just not good.
At least we got part 3 like a million years later.
And in my opinion, the best Exorcist.
Watching part 3 when I first seen part 3, because I didn't watch part 3 for a long time because of part 2.
Same here. Because
watching part 3 made me hate part 2 even more.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, because you could see
we would fight every time we seen each other. Every time we ran into each other, there'd be a fight.
You could kind of see
part 2. If part 2 was even a decently like received movie and wasn't so weird and doing weird ass shit, like dude, part 3 would be considered like one of the all-time classics in my opinion.
It's in my top 10
it's
of
just
all time
because of 2 being as hated as it is. Everybody ignores part 3, and people are starting to finally accept it now. It's kind of like Halloween 3, where people are finally starting to embrace it. But for the longest fucking time, people shit on it.
Yeah. Real quick, because I did miss this. Cody, with you on found footage, You Are Not Alone. It's probably one of my least favorite subgenres, but I think what I will say is when a found footage movie works, it really, really works for me. But they're few and far. Like I love As Above, So Below. I really love some of the VHS.
That barely
stuff.
feels. That's barely a found footage movie, though. Like I think
I've had that for years. Still haven't watched it.
I love As Above, So Below, but it's barely a found footage movie. It just doesn't feel like a found footage movie. Like it's more of the documentary style. Like, did you see
Blair Witch Project? You want to talk about that one?
Like there's just so many variations of what people group together as found footage though.
Right.
Like, and that's the thing that it's like Ghoul. Have you seen Ghoul?
Ghoul.
Super underrated movie. Really, really good. And people call it a found footage movie. And it's like, yeah, but it's more of like a documentary, like a fake documentary.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
It's really good. Ghoul is really good because Ghoul deals with like it takes a real serial killer that really existed and finds a way to kind of like mix it into this fantasy story, like into this fiction story, not fantasy, fiction story. And it's one of the most dark, like really cool little fucked up movies that nobody knows about. Like, dude, it's what I make a living at. It's literally what I do these days. Is
right.
try
It
to
drives
find
me
movies
crazy.
like that, but Ghoul's
How
really
did you?
cool.
How did you get that poster, the long legs poster?
eBay.
Okay.
It was actually a gift, but like
Thank you, Leslie,
you're not supposed to have these like movie theaters.
Yeah, I know.
Are not allowed to sell them, but this is an actual movie theater one. So
that's
I just got to find the right person that's willing to.
It shocks people
sell them.
how great that jump scare actually is. So,
how from
Exorcist
Exorcist 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that probably is the best jump scare that's ever been done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that I agree.
It's at least right there. It's right up
Number
there.
6 for me is going to be Arkin from The Collector and The Collection. Those movies are like...
How did I forget this?
Gotta step it up. But The Collector as well as The Collection are like really nice. I would say hidden gems. Most horror fans know about them, but they're not really well known outside of horror fans. But I remember The Collector came out and I went to the theater and I felt like I was the only person on planet Earth that even know it was a thing.
Yeah.
And I just love the character arc where you have somebody who's not really a bad guy. He's like a likable dirtbag who's just trying to steal from this family that has embraced him and took him in and treated him well. And then he's faced with this situation where there's somebody significantly worse stuck in the house with him. And now he has to, escape, but then also is trying to save everybody else. And I love the moment where he's out, he's safe, he has gotten away from the situation, and then he hears the little girl, and he has that moment, and then decides to go back. And there's a great alternate ending where he flips her off and just runs. So it's a good little in joke.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's like an alternate ending on the Blu-ray or whatever where it's
That's
that same
funny.
exact scene, and she's knocking, and he goes and then runs. And
Oh my god, that'd have been so great to see.
Yeah, but I love his character, and I love the way they bring him back in the collection and make it very much like this. He's the antithesis of the collector, and they're very much he's a recurring character now. The only moment that I ever thought was silly in those movies was when he has to like re-break his arm. It's just like, from that moment on, I mean, the fact that he's still able to defeat the collector, and all I gotta do is grab his arm, so
Right.
That's the only moment. But I love his character, and even if the collection is where it stops, I don't know if they're ever going to finish the third film or not.
I wish I knew what the deal is with that, because like they supposedly shot like a big chunk of it.
Well, they didn't shoot a big chunk of it. They started shooting it, and then COVID shut everything down, and then a lot of the shit got stolen while it was off.
I thought they had
and
shot
then the
most of
producers
the
kind of
principal.
I didn't read that it was most, but I don't know.
Okay.
But then the producers supposedly lost interest, but I have faith that they'll regain interest, or they'll get fans involved somehow. I don't think it's dead, but regardless, if the collection's the end of it, I love the way that it caps it off for Arkin as a character, where he totally just turns the tables and collects the collector. Like, it's just fucking awesome.
See, and I do got to say, if somebody could
him.
please get a screen grab of Cody with the broken arm scream and send that to me, I would really appreciate it. Yeah, so I would love to see The Collected. I think that's a movie we all would be dying to see, and I think it could make a really great trilogy in the horror world if we could get The Collected that's on the same level of what The Collected and The Collection
That's
was.
what makes me nervous, though, is like the further away from it you get, the less chance of getting the same people back. And then you end up with a fucking Jeepers Creepers bullshit situation. It's like, that's what I worry about, is like, yeah, fans come together, they raise money or whatever, and you get this sequel, but then you end up with a reborn, so.
Yeah,
I got a feeling that won't happen. I mean, I don't mean this to be a negative, but like, was it Josh Stewart who's Arkin? Like, what is he doing? Like, he's not going to say no. So,
right.
Well, no, but it's not just him. It's like, the further away you start to lose your cinematographer or your directors, your writers, like, you know what I mean? Like, the further you get from a movie, sometimes it's like harder to get the band back together. And, I'm not saying it can't happen, of course, like we have seen it. I'm just saying that's my only concern. So I hope that whatever happens, they do figure out a way to get it sooner rather than later. So
please God. We're about to do number 5, but before we do, I want to remind everybody, if you have not subscribed to these guys yet, please do. Their links are all in the description. You're not going to be disappointed. They are amazing. They do amazing work. And if this is your first time here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It helps to build the channel more than you know, like I said.
But only one of us has got a cool ass shark costume on.
Right.
Why am I still wearing this?
I know. I need to get me one of those just to wear.
Dude, I'm telling
you, number 5.
Just to give you some advice right now, all you need to do is grab like Michael Myers, a Jason, some Freddy stuff, and if somebody donates $50, you got to wear it for half an hour.
So do you stream pretty regularly?
Yeah.
I tried to for a little bit, but like streaming, it gets exhausting, man. Like, people don't realize, like, it's a lot more exhausting than and I don't know. It just seems to zap my mental energy.
Well, dude, because you have to be interactive and stuff. But if you ask the chat right now, I could stream 8 hours without blinking. So I'm still able to do that. So that's why I'm wearing
a different breed of human, I think.
I don't know why. I just get talking and I don't shut up. It's like you and I with Blair Witch.
Yeah. I like to be able to edit myself, though, and that's part of it too. It's like I cannot rewatch it, like any podcast I do or any long form. I can't do it because I'm like, shut up, Kainan. Like, fuck, I would have cut myself a long time ago.
Yeah, I get it.
No, I get it. It's one of those things where, especially when you're live, it's just the fun of everybody here in the chat and everything. So do you want to give us your number 5, Kainan?
Oh, it's back to me. Dr. Chalice from Halloween 3.
Okay.
I just love this fucking movie. And like, he's a flawed ass character, like extremely flawed. You know, I mean, he's basically with this 20-year-old and he's like 50 and like,
Best character arc ever.
yeah. It's just,
Yeah. Well, we'll search for your father tomorrow.
yeah, like it's ridiculous, dude. It's ridiculous. And I don't even know if he technically, he really is a final guy or not. I don't know. I mean, like, he does survive the movie, but I don't know, man. I just love it. I don't know what else to say. I just loved his silly, weird character in this movie. He's just fun to watch. It's a stupid movie, I think, and that's why I think it took a while for people to kind of come around to it. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's a weird ass movie that has druids and mini Stonehenge. I mean, it's fucking bonkers, but his role is really suited for that unhinged movie. And I just think it's a blast. I've rewatched that movie like so many times.
Yeah, I love the movie. We didn't see that coming on it, and it's one of my favorites in that whole franchise.
That would be a good in defense of.
Yeah, I would love to do it.
A lot of people have come around to it at this point. I still think it's a good defense of. So yeah, we should do that because you want to know what movie I would do. I don't. That's probably be the.
We'll link up after this, and we'll get it set in stone. What about you, Jay? What's your number 5?
I'm going with Jesse Walsh from Elm Street 2.
He would have been in my honorable mentions if we had done the honorable mentions.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll just get to the point here. When I'm young and I'm into horror movies, I'm living in a small town, which is pretty much a dome. There's not a lot of gay men that are in this town. So when I started I remember watching Nightmare 2 probably when I don't know what age I was, but I remember thinking like something isn't right about this, you know? And I'm not saying that being gay is wrong. I'm just saying when I was young, I'm like, this character is not the typical male sort of protagonist that's going to defeat somebody in a horror movie. I thought something is a little, being naive in a small town. I'm like, I don't know what's going on in this movie.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just being open with people right now. I don't know what this is because I didn't know what that was when I was young. I just thought man, woman, they get together, they have kids. That's it. I'm
had
a naive
very,
kid, right?
very similar experience because my dad had the first 4 Nightmare on Elm Street films, and anyone that you watched advertised the other 3. Like they must have released them all in like one little set. And so for years, I watched Nightmare on Elm Street 1, 3, and 4. And we didn't have 2. And when we finally got 2, I wanted to watch it so bad because the trailers before the other 3 always showed the scene where the claws started to come out of Jesse's fingers. And I was like, where's that one? That's going to be awesome. And then I finally watched it. And when it rolled the credits, I was like James Caan and Elf. I was like, wow, that was weird. And I just went to watch the other ones again. So yeah, when as a kid, there's all of the overtones and the very strange, supposedly accidental creative decisions of that movie definitely stand out.
Accidental,
you know. I mean, the gym teacher always making kids shower as a punishment, and he meets the gym teacher in a gay bar at midnight, covered in sweat, and the teacher sees him there, knows he's underage, and takes him back to the school and makes him shower. Like, it's so many weird fucking things in that story that don't add up.
And the director's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
We had no idea. Yeah. And then like the whole thing, like he's crawling on the floor and all the balls are hitting him in the face. Like there's so many things where it's like, how the fuck was that an accident? Like, come on now.
Right.
No, but like, you know what? If they put that in the movie and the one thing I'm kind of pissed off is that they don't own that. They're not like, that's what we tried to do to get it out there. And it's like, they
still don't, which is so weird.
Which is so, well,
like
I mean,
he does. And like like in the documentary, Scream Queens, you know, it goes deep into all that, but a lot of the people involved still don't own up to it. And it's like, well, it's the director.
I think that says a lot about the people saying that, we didn't plan to do that. I mean, at this point, it's so obvious for you to say that you didn't is kind of also like I'm not putting words into their mouths, but I'm saying, okay, at this point, if you're saying that you didn't do that, you might be homophobic at this point. I'm not saying they are. I'm just saying, like, okay, how can you not admit that? You made the fucking movie.
Mhm.
And you're still saying that 20 years later. And like, okay, fine. You want to live on that hill. Okay.
But
Good
that's
luck
one
to
of the scariest versions of Freddy we got, though.
Oh,
That's
it
what I
is.
love about it too.
I mean,
You
he's
know?
so dark and fucked up in that movie. I think that movie does so many awesome things. Like I grew up very, isolated kind of thing. And all the, it's like nobody wanted to watch that movie. Like I remember when it first came out, it probably would have been different, but I don't remember hearing about it until like it had been out for a while. And it was always like, oh, that's the one you don't need to watch. That's the one that's gay. It's like literally you write it off as that. And so I remember maybe seeing some of it, but not really giving it a chance until, I was full on an adult. And when I first watched it, I was just shocked. I'm like, dude, this is a fucking cool movie. Like, I mean, it is weird. It's weird as fuck, but it like does a lot of really interesting things. And the whole way he embody, like it's just the whole way they go about using Freddy and how he basically is like possessing this boy, like all of that. It's such a creative way of finding, instead of just like so many sequels where they just kind of rinse, repeat and do just basically the same thing that the first movie does all over again. Like they had a really creative way of making it feel like a whole new thing and yet still being attached to that first movie. So
I think Jacob makes a really good point in the chat, and he says the director and writer won't admit it because they don't want to admit to making an anti-gay allegory in 2024. Doesn't surprise me. And if you take that movie on its like, I mean, you can read into it maybe too much, but the basic plot of the film, if you want to go the subtext or not really sub anymore, the text angle is Freddy is homosexuality, and every time the girl, the love interest, the dollar store Meryl Streep is heterosexuality, and so the whole movie is like that battle, and he defeats homosexuality by the end of it. So I guess that makes sense why they would be like, wow.
But
Right.
the only thing I would push back on that is it's not like this is something that's just now being talked about. Like, you know what I mean? They could have come out and talked about this for the last 30 years. Like it's not like they're just afraid now to come out and get canceled. Like, you know what I mean? Like I just think that.
Yeah. If we talk about things out of the 80s and horror movies that could get canceled now, you'd
cancel the whole entire decade.
The whole decade of 80s movies and TV shows and films.
Yeah.
Like think of
the 90s,
of
and now even the now even the 2010s. Like look
Freddy
at the
versus
reality
Jason.
shows and stuff. I mean,
like
it's
Freddy
just
versus
interesting.
Jason with what's her name?
Get me a beer.
Kelly Rowland.
Yeah.
Like we're talking, when did that come out?
2003.
You know what I mean? 2003, and she calls
nice.
him
I love how
something
Cody
terrible
just
in that. It's like
instantly knew the date of that movie.
yeah, dude, how do you know all these things? Okay, ready? When did Scream 3 come out? What year? Oh, he's looking at
2000.
98. Was
he's
it?
close.
Yeah, 97 was 2.
I think they filmed it in 99 and they had to recut it because of Columbine, and it was released in 2000.
Yeah.
That's
dude, I still
too.
want
Like,
I still want the
Columbine
original Scream 3.
I
You
think
know,
it
we
would've been
kind of
such
got
a
it with
better
Scream
movie.
4, but speaking of Scream, like I'm a huge Scream fan, and even I'm a little bit weary of Kevin directing the next one. I'm like,
I think everybody is. There's a certain excitement to it, but the realistic side is like director, but you're not writing.
Yeah, have we not? Everyone has seen teaching.
Like if he
Mrs.
was
Tingle.
writing and directing, I would be less hesitant. But he's only directed one movie, and I forget the name of it, but it's
called
not a good movie.
It's called Teaching Mrs. Tingle, originally called Killing Mrs. Tingle, and it was about high school kids plotting to kill their teacher. And you know what? If you watch it nowadays, it's like a decent episode of Dawson's Creek with murder in it. It's not like the worst thing ever, but as a director, we're giving him that. It's like, he also just wrote that movie Sick, which came out after the pandemic. That movie's amazing.
But he wrote that. Like once again,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
I don't think anybody doubts that he can write a good Scream.
So we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out, I guess.
I just hope he has like some creative control with it, and like, you know what I mean, like that the script is not so locked in that he can't. I don't know. We'll see. But I'll tell you what. I'll tell you this one thing. I said this in my review of Abigail. I am so happy, though, that Radio Silence is free of the Scream franchise. Like, I would much rather see them get to do these original things and not be handcuffed to that franchise, because these guys make super fun horror movies. Like, I love their brand and style of horror. And it's like, as much as I thought they did pretty good with 6 and 7 of the Scream movies, like I think Abigail is a far superior movie, and so is Ready or Not in as far as enjoyment, in my opinion. But I don't know if you all enjoyed Abigail like I did, but
so it's my favorite.
I don't know if I would say it's number one for me, but it's up there. Like, my number one is probably The First Omen. And some of that might just be how shocked I was at how good it actually is. But it's also just, to me, it has such a classic feel to it. Like, I think The First Omen is one of those ones that we'll be talking about 20 years from now. And I don't know where Abigail is going to fall in that. It's like one of those really fun movies, but I don't know if it's going to be like, you know what I mean? I don't know if it's going to have that timeless quality or not yet. So, but I think The First Omen has a good chance at being one of those. Just everything about the way that movie's put together.
I'm dying to see it. I haven't seen it yet.
Abigail's easily my number one of the year. And speaking of vampires, my number 5 is
sorry, Cody,
Charlie.
I know you're trying to get things rolling.
Trying to rein it back in. All right, so my number 5, you're so cool, Brewster. We got Charlie from the original Fright Night. Fright Night's I almost feel dirty saying it's my second favorite vampire film because it's so fucking good, but I'm just a Lost Boys whore, so forgive me. But I love the movie Fright Night for all the reasons that Ken said earlier. What I like about Charlie is that, you're immediately introduced to the situation before you even know the character. Like, the movie just starts and boom, vampire next door. And so you learn about Charlie through how he deals with the situation, not with like a first act with exposition and a bunch of character interactions. And so it's really interesting. And then you have the different people that he's with, his girlfriend, you got Evil Ed, and then you got his relationship with Peter Vincent. And, at a certain point, he's literally alone. Like, he has nobody to turn to, and he still has to rise to the occasion of, dealing with this threat next door. And so it's a classic movie. It's a great character. And if you haven't seen Fright Night Part 2, which most people have not, it is actually free on YouTube to watch. There's like 2 different copies of it. Otherwise, it's hard to find. It's one of those out of print movies, but his character arc kind of goes over through to the second film and is also really good. So both of them are awesome.
Yeah. I've heard that we're getting a requel from Part 1 eventually with the same cast. That's what I was hearing, but we'll see.
I don't know. I heard that Tom Holland was writing a book, but that was all I heard. And
the book's out.
Okay. Yeah. So I would love that. I just want to see Tom Holland.
Is it the graphic novel?
Yeah.
It's a graphic novel, right?
I think he turned it into a graphic novel. It got released.
I would love to check that out. My number 5, it was brought up in the chat earlier, and I said we'd talk about Devin Sawa again, but it's Anton from Idle Hands.
I love that movie.
I saw this movie because Tom DeLonge from Blink-182 is in the movie, and Blink was like, push it. They're like, hey, Tom DeLonge's going to be in this movie, Idle Hands. And I was like, no way. So I went to watch the movie, and he has like a little 2-second cameo, like when Anton goes in the restaurant and he's like, break time, and Tom's like, all right, and he walks away. I was like, yeah, Blink-182. It's all
the Offspring have a bigger cameo than
perform. Well, they perform a song in it, right?
Yeah.
No,
and
that's
then he gets his scalp ripped off.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, but
I love that movie though.
I still love this movie to this day. It's one that's just like his performance as a one-man wrecking ball throughout the movie is so fucking good, and it's on par with Ash, with Bruce, on how well he can play against himself. So number 5 for me,
that body performance is fantastic in it. It really is, because like he makes it just really, the villain in the movie is his hand. So it's like he's not only playing the like the survivor, the final guy, but also the villain in it. So yeah.
My favorite part of that
works.
film, and it's absolutely one of my favorites of my childhood too. But I always crack up to this day at Seth Green and Eldon Henson's like his friend characters, just they're back and forth with him, and come on, man, bring it over. This ain't Domino's, you lazy bitch. Come get it yourself. And like these little one-liners throughout the movie, even after there's zombies, like there's blood all over the microwave. He's like, shouldn't we clean this first? Oh yeah, and then we can clean the whole fucking house. Like, I love it.
I love the little like to
That's
me,
another-
it was like a little Easter egg to me, but. When you had the two cops, one of them was one of the kids from Sometimes They Come Back. The other was Roach from The People Under the Stairs. So to me, it's like horror royalty, seeing these two cops in that movie. So absolutely love it. It's one of the movies that we still watch on VHS. So
it's another one that would get that. Like if we were to try to worry about woke or canceling or whatever, it would get canceled too. Like it's another movie that only.
I must say that movie also
era.
showed me how to smoke weed out of an inhaler. So I did do that for a couple years. So now we will go up to.
I didn't realize you could actually do that. I thought that was just
you
kind
put
of
a little bit of
movie thing.
tinfoil in, poke the tinfoil. Yeah.
I was used an apple.
Well, you're canceled now.
Back
The more you
then.
know.
First time I smoked was out of
Jay,
an
you
apple.
want to give us your number 4?
I'm going with Jim from 28 Days Later.
Good one.
The reason I'm choosing this one is because it was the first introductory. Did I say that word right?
Introduction.
Introductory. What the fuck? Introduction to a different kind of filmmaking. And at the time, I was getting into filmmaking, so it has a very special place in my heart because that movie's actually shot on mini DV tape. And at the time, we wanted to make movies. So understanding how that film was made really connected me to the film in a special way. And also, it's also one of the first films I learned about color grading and how the film itself starts in a very bright an environment and it deteriorates as you go through the film and it gets desaturated by the end of the film. So that's another aspect of cinematography that I learned from that film. But the character himself, they're making a third one, which I can't wait for.
Yeah,
he's in as a producer. I'm hearing. I don't know if he's in the movie yet officially, but he's hovering a role. So we might see the return of Jim 28 years later, which is like, where are we in this world now?
I can't see how he's not doesn't at least have a cameo.
He's got to be in it. Well,
especially when you're producing the movie, like you're putting the money up. The best way to market it is. He's a huge star, especially with, all the Academy Award buzz from last year. Cillian Murphy is like,
he's definitely in the film. Let's just get to that point.
Right.
They got to save something for the marketing or something at some point. But to get a sequel after all of these years to 28 Days Later is mind blowing. The music.
Yeah. And bringing back the same directors and writers. Like that's
everybody.
Yeah,
well,
that's
actually,
another super rare thing.
Well, what's super rare is they're bringing back everybody, the director, but also the director from the second one is writing, I believe, the third one with the director of the first one. So it's like, cool. If we're ever going to get
that's right, because they're doing 3. They're doing a
that's
supposed to be part of 3, which I don't love the idea. Like, why is everybody doing this now where they got to announce 3 fucking movies? It's like,
I honestly think they must have a pretty good idea. And if we're looking at the story of this film, they never really talk about how long can one of these sort of, I'm not going to call them zombies because they're not zombies in the movie, but how long can this virus affect people? Does it actually like wear out at a point? Do people turn normal? Like,
well, you would die though. That's the only weird thing I'm curious about. Like, because people would die. Like, they're not eating. They're not like living normal lives. Like, eventually, even just being dirty, like just literally the bacteria on your body would kill you. Like,
right? So,
it's the same thing with zombies in movies too, where it's like you lose a little realism when you're like, you can't really last past like a few months because everybody would just start dying.
Watch what you say about my Dawn of the Dead here.
Juicy.
So I'm curious because this one is more like they were always more grounded in like reality. Like, totally. They're not Dawn of the Dead where it's like, you got to kind of buy into the joke, so to speak. Like this is
absolutely
this world. They're more grounded and so I'm curious how they're going to explain all that because it is a virus. So is it just that the virus is still just active?
we're going to get an answer to it. And that's what's so amazing about that.
That's what I'm excited about too.
Yeah, me too.
So, Cody, you want to give us your number 4?
Number 4 is going back to Phantasm, and I've got Mike here.
Nice.
It was a hard choice between Mike and Reggie. I think it was
Yeah.
Jason in the chat earlier was like, most people would pick Reggie. The funny thing about Reggie is that, at least in the first 3 films, it's a recurring gag that he dies at the end. So he doesn't quite fit the rules. But anyway, Mike, Phantasm and Phantasm 2 were mainstays in my childhood. I grew up on both of them, loved them. I enjoyed the other ones, save for 5 too, but 1 and 2 are the most important to me.
You didn't like Ravager?
No, I hate that
Ravagers?
movie. And then you have what I like about Mike is that you have this kid who they're kind of unclear about what exactly happened, like with his parents. Like, it's kind of weird that his older brother's just like raising him and is like trying to leave town and just gonna leave his kid brother there with nobody. Like, there's details about it that are weird, but he's a kid that you almost feel like he could take care of himself if that happened. Like, he's so independent and he's so smart and strong, and then he gets put into this situation that's like literally hell on earth. And all throughout the movie, like he just got so much balls. Like, his brother won't help him, won't believe him. Okay, fuck it. I'm going to take this gun. I'm going to go into a mortuary at night by myself with the little Jawas and flying spheres and take care of shit myself. And that's what I always loved about that character. And I really like James DeGrosse's version in Phantasm 2 as well. They did Mike a little dirty in some of the sequels with mostly 3. He's kind of a whiny bitch. But but the first 2 specifically, I think he's an awesome character. So he's up there for me.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why I don't like 3. That's like... I honestly even liked Ravagers more than 3, just because I can't stand how he's portrayed in 3. Like, it's he's just annoying. Like, you just
Rocky makes 3 for me. Rocky makes 3 watchable. I love Rocky in part 3.
Yeah.
My number 4 is a guy that literally lost it all and is the only one left after he shoots everybody in the fucking car. So I'm going with David from The Mist. Like, you want to talk about a guy that goes through it throughout a movie. And then, you know, he has to shoot.
I think my heart just couldn't put that movie. It couldn't put him, because that's such a brutal.
I think that it's an amazing ending to the movie. I think that it's heartbreaking, sure. But if I'm in that situation and my kids are going to get ripped apart by acid spiders, or I could take them out quickly with no pain, I think it's a no-brainer. It sucks that obviously.
Well, the heartbreaking part isn't even so much that he does that. It's that he realizes after, like, immediately after, like, that he didn't need to.
But at the same time, he knows he's saving a lot of money on school supplies. So you know, there's a silver lining to everything here.
I still argue, though, that do you want your, like, he's devastated because of the idea of, like, that he could have, maybe his kid could have survived, whatever. But, like, do you want your kid growing up in that world? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's probably better anyway.
And I did see this. Yes. The short story is phenomenal. I love the short story. And they add a lot of detail to the short story, The Mist, that is not in the movie. So my number 4 is going to be David from The Mist. What about you, Kainan?
We're number 4. Dewey from Scream. I just love Scream. Scream's like the first horror movie that I got to go see, like as an adult. I wasn't actually an adult yet, but like getting to go with my friends, like and go to a theater without parent supervision, like literally just, I think I was 16 or 17. And it's just such a great movie, but I don't know. There's just something about Dewey. Like, I just love him. Like, he's such an anti-hero, but not in a way of, like, you know, you have a lot of anti-heroes where they're kind of a villain and a hero, whereas he's more of like an anti-hero in the way that he's just not like he doesn't come off as a badass. He doesn't always make the right decisions. He's very, very fallible and just, you know, a flawed character, but not flawed in like a bad way, almost like flawed in a good way. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's almost too nice. He's almost too good. He's like almost too loyal and to a fault, you know? Also, that's such a great character.
Also, the scene with like the big burly commander-in-chief smoking a cigarette, and then you have Dewey with ice cream.
The ice cream cone, yep.
Yeah, it's like, it's such a contrast.
But that's what I mean. It's like, and I think everybody can identify with him in that way, where it's like, like the whole real what's that saying where real superheroes don't always have to have capes, or real heroes don't always wear capes kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those where it's like you can almost see yourself in him, and it's like it's what you do when the chips are all pushed in kind of thing. It's what you do when you got no other choice, and he's just kind of defines that character. And I still think that they should have, he was the one they should have let live, and stupid Courtney Cox should have been killed. Like, how are you gonna kill him in 6 and leave and let her live in 7?
Spoilers. I'm kidding.
Like that was probably the thing I hated the most about 7 is the fact that they let her live, because if you're gonna kill,
I still think it's awesome that Melissa Barrera wants to be a part of Scary Movie 6. That writes itself.
Yeah,
like just having her show up and be like, I thought I was fired from this.
Man, she was fucking great in Abigail. Like she was fantastic in that movie.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like that just feels like an inspired performance, in my opinion. Like it just feels like she's like, "Hey, Scream, fuck you!" Like look what you're missing out on. Like
I thought she was
gorgeous in it. She's badass. She's witty. Like
I think she was weak in part 5, and then all of a sudden, part 6, I'm like, oh, here she is.
She was a savage.
I'm like, this is fucking amazing. We're going on the right path here.
Yeah. So guys, we're up to the top 3 now. We are going with our bronze medal. So Cody, you want to start us off with your number 3?
My number 3 is R.J. McCready from John Carpenter's The Thing. It's my favorite horror film of all time, so it's going to be on here somewhere. Big Kurt Russell fan, and what I love about his character is that he's the only one that maintains his composure during this whole situation where everybody loses all their faith and starts to have paranoia take over everything. Like he just kind of like how Casey does in The Faculty, where he kind of sits back and gets information and then takes hold of the situation once people start to lose it. And he's just like, here's what we're going to do. I'm in charge. We're doing this. Go get the fucking flamethrower. You shut the fuck up. We're going to do this little test here. Tie your little bitch ass to that couch. And so I love how his character progresses, and the way that movie utilizes its ensemble cast too. Like it doesn't introduce Kurt Russell as the leader. Like we know Kurt Russell is the big name on the poster among these other people, but he's just the pilot. He's the pilot with the weird ass sombrero. You got 7 other characters that would be more likely to be the leader in that situation.
It's like by default.
Yeah, that all fall to the wayside. He's got great lines. Like I love the final line towards the monster. He's like, "Yeah, fuck you too," and throws the grenade. It's just, it's elevated by Kurt Russell's, movie stardom.
Let me ask you this though. There's one scene in that. Okay, obviously The Thing is like a masterpiece. There's one scene though that I always laugh at, where he's playing the fucking computer game and he loses. So rather than turn the computer off, he pours his drink into it and fries the $2,000, $4,000 computer, and the base that they're in, it's gone. It's like that one little choice always made me laugh. I'm like, what the hell is that about?
But I kind of think that kind of defines his personality in a way, like where, like he just kind of doesn't give a shit, but he does, but he's like, he's willing to put himself at risk. He's willing to like, it's not that he doesn't think about things, because like Cody said, he is very calculated and and takes in information and all that, but it's more of just like, even wearing that fucking stupid ass hat, it's like he just doesn't give a shit. There's this element that he's just kind of almost a little bit of like a dude, you know what I mean, where he's just dude abides. Like he's got a little bit of that to him, a little bit of that cowboy in him.
Sure.
He's kind of like John Carpenter is now. Like John Carpenter's like, I don't give 2 shits about anyone's opinion. He's like,
dude, that old man. Like, I don't know if there's any.
You'll love it.
That old man frustrates me.
Yeah, he's. We don't need to get into John Carpenter right now, but he's like, all I ever see him do is just like, fuck you. Where's my money? That's all he is now. Right? I'm like, okay. You know what though? If anyone can say that, I'll give it to him.
It's Carpenter. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's what frustrates me is it's like
the lack of respect, kind of, right?
Yeah, there's a little bit of not just lack of respect, but a little bit of like I'm not like, I get a little bit sick and tired of people acting like, you know, just because you're famous or just because you're known or whatever the fuck, that like you owe them something, like that you owe gratitude towards them or whatever the fuck. I get a little irritated by that. I think it kind of goes into the hero worship shit that we see too much in society right now.
Yeah.
And so I'm okay with it to a certain extent, but with John Carpenter's, like, I'm not saying you gotta like kiss society's ass. I'm not saying you got to make another fucking movie. Like, if you don't want to make a movie, that's fine. But like, it's like he almost like despises fans, and it's like, dude, why? Like he literally he puts his name on this piece of shit series on Peacock that's. Dude, he literally directed it from his couch in his apartment or house, whatever. Like it's beyond not giving a shit. It's almost more like and I don't get it. I don't know why he kind of almost has it like there's a chip on his shoulder towards fans, and I don't quite.
Is it towards fans
why.
or is it towards Hollywood?
I think it's towards the studios.
Yeah, because I think
he may see it that way.
I don't know. I haven't seen him talk that way to fans. I know he has a very jaded attitude towards the industry. And as I've been doing my John Carpenter review series and like researching the film process and all these different movies, like it's almost amazing he had as many massive hits as he did, because he really did kind of get fucked all along the way. Like from all the way in the beginning, he had these hits. And then you have things like Halloween where they strip it away from him. Halloween 3 doesn't work. And then you have The Thing, which most people would call his best film. And it comes out and critics in the industry just like lambast it and say it's a piece of shit. And then you have movies that he basically had to take to stay afloat, like Christine, which I think is amazing, but it was literally a paycheck movie. And you get these passion projects that he wants to get into, like Memoirs of an Invisible Man, where he has to battle the studio and Chevy Chase and loses. And so there's so many little stories all throughout his career where he just gets fucked. And so I think eventually he just gave out and he was like, whatever, fuck it. Pay me. Yeah. Halloween 12. Sure. Paycheck.
So maybe it's just that, but if that's the case, then why isn't he doing things like instead of, like, okay, if you want to stick it to the man, that's fine. But then it still doesn't feel like even towards the fans, like I have never met the man in person, but there are so many fan interactions where he kind of has that same surly way about him. And like anytime anybody criticizes him on Twitter about his music or about anything he does, there's just this like bitter old man. And it doesn't feel like it's just towards the studios, and that. Because towards the studios, fuck yeah, dude. Towards the studios, yeah, definitely.
Well, I
don't blame him.
I've met him in real life. He's not like that to everybody. He's not like fuck you. I'll answer your question. Fuck off. It's what you're seeing is like the viral versions, right? You're not watching a John Carpenter just be a nice guy to somebody. You know what I mean? You're watching the one
see the outliers.
Yeah, you're seeing the shit where he's like, hey, yeah, fuck Rob Zombie, fuck the studios, fuck them.
Yeah.
That's what we're seeing. But when you get in an intimate room with him with 300 people, he eats it up. Like you could tell he's like, thank you so much, guys. He's not really that bad. But I will say, though, like his persona right now, he does come across exactly what Kane's saying. He's like this pompous, like, yeah, I've been there, done that. Fuck you. And it's like, wow,
I paid my dues. And that's fine. Like that's the thing. If you just want to be a retired old man and make your music, like that's cool. Like and people that bitching at him to make movies, whatever, that's fine. I like if he doesn't want to do that. I don't want him to. I don't either. I think it would be. I don't think he can. Like I said this recently, and people were like, "What? You don't think he can?" I'm like, "No, dude. I don't think he's got it in him anymore to make a movie."
I don't think he has the ambition to even want to do it anymore.
That's what I mean. I don't think he has it in him. I mean, I'm saying he doesn't have the talent. Like if he was inspired to do something, I'm sure he still could.
Well, the thing also to bring up is just like, it's like what you were saying. What people don't realize about filmmaking is if you do not have a backing of a major studio behind you, he would have to go the route that, this leads into my next person I'm going to bring up here, but he'd have to go the route with George Romero. You know, if you look at the last 3 zombie movies he made, they're all made in Canada, which is where I am. I know most of the people that worked on the films. He's one of the nicest guys, but guess what? He didn't get the money to make what he wanted, so he just
Isn't
fell
that
down.
what Cronenberg? Isn't that the same thing Cronenberg?
Absolutely. They don't get the
well?
money.
Yeah.
They don't get the money, so they turn to these small independent studios. And also, I'm just going to be honest, there's nobody there to check him to be like, hey, you know, George, maybe this isn't the best idea. Like, let's work on this. We're putting a lot of money behind it. These are studios in Canada that just go, here's $1 million, George, do whatever you want.
Right.
You know, and as he got older, I think he did what he wanted to do, but they're not the best films he ever did. They're good. They're fun to watch, but like, you know, I'm a huge fan, obviously, of his. But yeah, if we're gonna go,
I forget who it was I was talking to recently, but they said that we always shit on studios and shit on producers and whatever, but sometimes, like, not just sometimes, but like, honestly, you need them. You know, you do need to have that secondary voice and keep artists, you know, nose to the grindstone and like purifying their ideas. Like, even if it's just simply bouncing the ideas back and forth or whatever.
Well, I'll give
you need a good partnership with a good producer. You know, isn't going to just block everything the director wants to do. He's going to,
you know, a good, very good example is The Sixth Sense. The Sixth Sense would never be what it was without studio involvement.
Exactly.
They came along and turned that into what it was. M. Night had no idea what he was doing in a lot of aspects to that film, and they stepped in and turned it into that, right?
It's part of why
we had examples.
But it's part of why, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, you only hear about the times where somebody had a vision and then the studio came in and interfered. When it's bad, it's interference. When it's good, it's collaboration. But you'll have examples all throughout movie history where
Sludge is going to murder us. He's going to murder us.
No, dude, I love it, man. I just want to say, Carl, I agree. This guy is super sexy, but I agree with this even more. The guy on the bottom right is even sexier. I do agree with that. So
I don't know. The guy on the top right, man. Telling you,
there's so much sexy here. It's ridiculous.
It's too much.
I like the little skull at the very top right. I think he's sexy.
Oh yeah.
The skull.
Yeah.
You know,
the
beard. What is that? Like green beard?
Is that the Goonies logo? Oh no, it's yours.
Yeah.
Sledgehammer.
Where at?
I'm kidding. We're just fucking with you. Never mind.
Oh, I totally got lost there.
What are we on?
I was talking about your logo, dude. I was talking about your logo.
Oh, yeah.
Number 3.
I figure everybody would go way higher on this one, so I wanted to have him. I had to have him in the top 3, but
we're gonna probably all have. I think there's going to be a few cross.
Yeah.
Listen, let's just get this out of the way. Ash Williams is number 1, isn't it, for everyone?
He's number 3 for me just because of that. I knew everybody was going to have him super high, so I had him at number 3. Again, I love. If you go back to the first movie, he's such a dork and helpless. And
well, to save a little time, he's also my number 3, so we can just kind of go around with him.
All right,
there you go.
So yeah, number 3 for me is going to be Ash Williams. Number 3 for Kainan is going to be Ash. What about you, Jay?
I'm going with Peter Washington. A lot of people don't know who that really is, but Peter Washington is Ken Foray from Dawn of the Dead.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I thought long and hard about this, and I thought the reason why I think he is one of the best.
But hold on.
Yep.
Does he actually survive though?
Well, technically, they get on the helicopter, and in the film, they fly away into an uncertain future. So we don't know if he dies.
Is it that I must be thinking of the alternate ending, right? Isn't
Yeah.
You're thinking of the remake, probably, where they get off the boat and then there's the island where they get killed.
No, I'm talking about the original, but I feel like there is an alternate ending though where they, I don't know. Anyway, sorry.
Well, there's like 16,000 versions of Dawn of the Dead, so I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, you could be talking about the Italian one or the U.S. theatrical, but I think it's so powerful because George wanted to do the complete opposite of what he did at the end of Night. You know what I mean? And obviously Night of the Living Dead, we could talk for 6 years about that film, so I'm not even going to get into it. But I think the end of Night of the Living Dead is like one of the most shocking things I've ever seen in a horror movie ever to date.
Yeah.
And to have, and also because of the era it was in, you know, at the end of the film, you have, well, first of all, it's, you know, Night of the Living Dead, you have a black character slap a white woman, which is, you know, at the time was so controversial that theaters wouldn't even play the movie just because of that one scene. And now you got George coming back saying, you know what, we're going to make him the hero this time and let them live. And it was just like, here we go. That's
well,
you know,
and you also got to think, if they do survive,
they're
going to get together.
Well, that's
like,
the other, that's another
they're
major aspect of it, right? That's another major aspect that I think he was trying to do in Day of the Dead. You know, if most people know about Day of the Dead, the actual story behind that is like Day of the Dead was supposed to be double the size of Dawn of the Dead, but they took the money away from him right as they went to go make the movie. So instead of it being in the bunker where it just is, it was supposed to be the whole military base with tanks and jeeps and helicopters. It would have been, if we got the real Day of the Dead, it would have been probably the best thing we've ever seen. But
I don't know, man. Dawn is such a fucking perfect.
It's perfect, right?
Perfect.
So,
fucking. I just don't know if anything you did with Day would have topped it. I mean,
well, I mean, we kind of saw what he was trying to do with Day of the Dead, like the idea of having those, you know, like the Dead Reckoning itself. That's the name of the truck that's in Land of the Dead, which by the way, here's another, I like to give you guys a little bit of tidbits of like behind the scenes. Dead Reckoning was a real truck that they created for Land of the Dead, and it took them 4.5 hours to drive it from downtown Toronto to beside my house when they filmed Land of the Dead back in the day, because the truck itself was essentially a Mack truck that they converted. It was working, but the problem was it can only go 15 miles per hour because they were afraid that the casing on the outside would fall off on the highway. So they took them 4 hours with 6 police cars to drive it at like 4 a.m. from Toronto down to next to my house there. And to see it in real life was such an amazing event. But anyways, I'm not, there's some tidbits for you guys.
No,
I haven't seen that movie in a long time, but I was not a fan when I did see it.
I mean, Land of the Dead does stand up to be his like 4th best zombie film. You know, if you ignore the ones he made after that, this is the 4th best one. Like, it doesn't come close to Day when you look at Land now, but it's still up there. You know, it has a lot of really great moments in it.
I need to rewatch it.
Well,
I think the last time I saw it was when it came out. So
yeah, it's been a long time, man. But yeah, go back and watch it. You know, you got like Dennis, what's his name? Dennis Hopper doing like a kind of a Trump character in there. You've got Machete shows up, Blades. Tom Savini shows up in the cameo. So it's a great little movie, but it's not, I don't think it's, again, because of studio involvement, it's not what he wanted to do, but he took it because he's like, okay, I'll take the $14 million to make another zombie movie. Thank you, Universal. And also, another small tidbit I'll just get out of the way quickly. So what happened was he signed a Universal deal where they signed him for 2 pictures. I was lucky enough to meet him many times before he passed away, because he actually moved to Toronto in his final days. And he talked about in front of a group of like 20 people once about how Universal, I don't know if a lot of people even know this story. Universal said, you can go make Land of the Dead if you help us develop The Return of the Killer Ants and you direct it. And he was like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with giant ants? So at the time, Universal, at one point, he was in talks to do The Return of Giant Ants Attack LA, and he was going to do it. And he was just like, I didn't know what to fucking do with giant ants.
Of all movies of that era to try to remake
and have George Romero do it. I think I honestly, I
would have watched that though.
It would have been great. I know why they were doing it, because if you watch the beginning of Land of the Dead, the Universal logo is from the 40s, like from the 50s, I should say. So they were trying to ease in. They were trying to ease in. Okay, listen, here's your zombie movie. Here's your giant ant movie. Here's a new Frankenstein movie or whatever.
I wonder if we'll ever see that. Because like we've seen remakes from all different eras, and like I wonder if we'll see the giant sci-fi monster, alien, giant ants, giant slugs, like whatever. I wonder if we'll see that era back
with
the Saturday matinee.
Yeah, like with
era.
Adam Wingard. I talked like I keep name dropping, like I know all these people personally, but I saw Blair Witch at the TIFF International Film Festival, and I talked to Adam after the fact, the director of it. He went on when I talked to him in 2006 when that came out. He told me then he was working on Godzilla movies. Right at the premiere of Blair Witch, I'm like, dude, you're doing a Godzilla movie? And guess what?
He was attached to that movie for fucking
forever. And guess what? They're all doing really well for him. So if anybody could come out and do like a giant killer spider,
that's how it'll be done. It won't be that it'll be a standalone giant spider movie. It's just that's going to be a villain for Godzilla or Kong. I think we're just continue to see that universe pushed because I heard that they're working on like doing Mothra as being more of a or not Mothra. Is it the Moth one?
Gojira?
Is be huh?
Yeah, no, Mothra.
Yeah, Mothra. Yeah. Okay, it being more of a central character, I guess. Yeah. It's going in the next one is what
they're building a universe. They're building a universe.
Anyway, I know these two. I can see them keep looking like, all right, guys. All right, so.
No, I got to get my kids to bed soon. So I
know. I keep forgetting how late it is where you guys are.
Where are you? Like
California. So it's only 7. I'm like, it's not that late for me. I'm still going to go to the drive-ins after this.
I feel the Midnight Meat Train is a lot of fun, and it's a crazy fucking movie.
Holy shit! I wouldn't have thought of this one. That's a good pull.
Yeah, I love
that movie.
Very much. It really means a lot. So now we are going to get to our number 2. That'll be me starting us off. My friend till the end. I'm going with Andy Barclay.
Mine as well.
All right.
You stole my number 2 as well. So.
All right. Well, let's all just talk about Andy real quick. Is he your number 2, Kainan?
No.
Okay. Well, we'll all talk about Andy.
He's not even on my list, and I'm like, how did I not put Andy on here? But I have 2. I can't. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't think of him, but there's 2 that I'm surprised.
Andy was my hero, man.
I think I know Cody's number 1. It's got to be.
Growing up, obviously Child's Play was my favorite franchise. It's still my favorite franchise today. It's a whole film franchise that has meant so much to me growing up, and I feel like I've grown and matured along with the franchise. Sometimes not for the better, even in my own life, and but seeing Andy as a kid and even going back now and watching it, I get 2 completely different feelings. As a kid, it was like, could I do what this kid is doing? Look how amazing this kid is. And then as a parent, like you watch the scene of like, he wasn't the best actor in the first film, but you get that moment where he's crying inside the hospital room. And as a parent, like your heart is shattered, and, to this day, my daughters still play with this guy, and when I was a kid, I was Andy, and I, would run from Chucky and play with the Chucky doll. And so, he's somebody that I looked up to as a kid. I wish we could get more involvement from him in the TV show and get a real closure. I hope the TV show ends with him and De Silva riding off into the sunset. Bring her back for me, Don Mancini. Please bring her back from me.
And have those movie happily ever after. So he's making a movie now, so.
Yeah, Jay or Cody, anything either one of you want to say about Andy?
Well, I just want to say that I'm not going to add to that. I'll just say quickly, it's amazing that that we still have Chucky in a form that I never imagined we'd get Chucky in, but we're still getting characters from Child's Play just popping in there. Yeah, and as you know what I mean, it's like some people may say the series is like over the top silliness. I think
it's like, as popular as Chucky's ever been right now.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, he's now done enough to make another goddamn movie for us.
It's like a 3rd generation.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Like, that's what's crazy. Amazing. Like 2 is one thing, but like we're talking about a 3rd now. I mean, there's kids that are into it like big time right now. Like it's just
I have 2 of them in this house.
And I love that. I love that
cool.
he's retired. Cool. He's essentially retired for acting, but he's like, except for one role, Chucky. I will do Chucky until I die. And it's like, oh my God, this guy's amazing.
And that's how much it means to him.
Yeah.
Real quick, Billy from Society. God, that movie scared me, even so tongue in cheek. Love Society. Cody, is there anything you want to add about Andy?
Yeah, I mean, just like with you, Child's Play is just a huge part of my life. It was what got me into horror, and I love the character, especially the first 3 movies. I've liked some things of what they've done recently with him, some things not so much. I'm a pretty tough critic when it comes to the second half of the Child's Play legacy. Everything post Seed is very extreme hit or miss for me, but I at least love the fact that it's still going, and there's a lot of people that are getting introduced to Child's Play and Chucky through the show that are loving it. So that's a good thing one way or another. But yeah, Andy to me was kind of like the quintessential final guy, if you will, growing up.
And I do got to say real quick, guys, if you want, watch along with us the rest of this season on Wednesdays at 10 o'clock. We'll be watching it together. Hopefully you guys can come in and watch with us. Try to figure out what's going on with all this dumb ghost shit. So we know what our number 2s are, but what about you, Kainan? What's your number 2?
McCready. I love McCready. I'm not gonna, Cody said everything there is really to say about McCready, but I love the thing. To me, McCready is right up there with like not only my final guy, but like one of my favorite heroes of all time, because he just is. He's so unique. I'll just put it at that. He's just a very unique figure, not just the way he looks, but everything about him isn't cool. And that's what makes him so cool. Mm-hmm. It's like that big floppy fucking hat is like the dumbest thing ever, but somehow it becomes super fucking cool because of how dumb it is. Right. It's a weird, anyway. Yeah.
See, and I got to say, since we got all these donations tonight, and I haven't been playing the clips, we all got Andy Barkley here, so I got to give a little Chucky love here for all these donations we've gotten tonight.
Don't fuck with the Chuck.
Where are you, you little shit? Chucky's gonna be a bro. Presto, you're dead.
My favorite in the franchise, baby. Always got to go with Child's Play 3. So, all right, guys. So now we're up to number 1, and Kainan.
I'm curious how many of us have the same number 1. Okay, so
I bet nobody has my number 1.
Okay, I think for sure one of you's got to have my number 1. So, fucking Dutch from Predator. Like, I started out as a fan of horror, or not a fan of horror, as a fan of action. So I was introduced to Arnold, long before I had ever seen any horror movies at all, really. And so, like, because I didn't really watch horror until I was like later teens, but I got to watch all of the, Raw Deal, fucking Commando, like all the Arnold movies. And so then all of a sudden there's this Predator movie, and it like not only introduced me to sci-fi, but to horror at the same time. And just like I've never thought there was anybody that did a role that was more badass to me than Dutch in Predator. So it's just like, it's like the most at the time anyway, especially is like the scariest alien creature monster I could come up with against the most badass specimen of a guy that you could. And so it's just like these two titans clashing, probably the way a lot of people felt about like way back with Godzilla, where it was like these two titans clashing, or, but yeah, I just love the movie. I love how he's just this big badass, but yet he has to use his smarts and like actually figure out the situation. And that's what really makes him survive, covering in mud and like all the things he ends up having to figure out to survive. Like, I think also makes him just like a layered character and interesting to me. So yeah, definitely Dutch is my number 1.
I mean, amazing. I'm glad you consider it a horror movie, because I totally think Predator is a horror movie. What about you, Jay? What's your number 1?
It's going to be a weird one, but I'm going with Father Karras from The Exorcist. He officially lives, so let's just get that out of the way.
He absolutely does.
He is maybe he isn't, but we'll, whatever. We can argue about that for 5 hours later. The reason why I'm choosing this character is because
hold on, why wouldn't he live at least past the first movie?
Well, he splats his head against the pavement, but then he's alive for the sake of 3.
So basically, what I mean, off screen, I guess he does technically die in the first one, but the demon sort of possesses him from the grave and brings him out of the grave in the third one, like sitting there physically. So it's debatable on if he's like a zombie person or if it's him alive or if it's like purgatory. I don't know what it is, right?
Mhm.
But the reason I choose him is because I honestly think Jason Miller as Karras is probably one of the most well-acted final guys, as you would call them, in any horror movie ever. I think his performance in there is Oscar worthy. Like it's on another level where I think people
especially
go
in that final act.
Yeah, dude. Like I think people look at the movie and go, "Oh, Exorcist is the girl that pukes and her head turns around." Yeah. Like it's so easy to watch that movie and get carried away with all that bullshit, right? But if you go into like an actual character piece, his acting in that movie, and it was his first major role off of stage. He is unfucking believable in that movie as a priest who is also a doctor. He plays the line so well. But he's also a doctor who can't help his mother. He can't believe in God anymore because he's watching God take his sick mother away from him. And then he fails at essentially saving his mother. He's almost to the point of just like giving up completely. He's an alcoholic on the side as well. He's
I think that it's one of those things where when you're younger, certain things stand out to you and then you see them
when you're older.
See a movie again when you're older, because I felt the same way. Like I remember seeing Exorcist way back when I was young, and it was the pea soup, it was the things like that stood out. But last year when it was re-released, I think in October, it was like the 4K whatever 50-year anniversary or whatever. It was like right before Believer came out. I went and saw it in theaters, and that's what stood out to me too, was just his performance, especially. I mean, it's just like, dude,
it's unfucking believable.
Yeah.
Like you are just watching an actual priest lose his faith. And then and at the end of the film, the idea that he sacrifices himself to take the demon out of the child, is that him believing again, or is that him committing suicide? That's another question nobody ever brings up about that film. It's like, did he ever regain his faith? And it's like,
I didn't feel it was a suicide moment. Like either way, I didn't get that from it. It felt like a sacrifice, sure, but not per se like, because suicide, we're probably going to get demonetized. Probably shouldn't be saying that. Self-harm is generally like a selfish act to me. Like it's like you can't handle life or whatever, or you don't want to live anymore. And he was not that. It wasn't that he was not wanting to live anymore. He wasn't wanting to take his own life. He was trying to do what he could to protect the girl. And if that meant dying, so be it.
Right.
See, I used to think that too, but I mean, the haunting of his mother, if you rewatch the film and have that idea in your head that he's just like had enough, but he's also come to that realization.
It could be both ways.
It could actually be both ways. And that's what makes him one of those characters. I'm like, this is just unbelievable. Especially the acting is just, I've never seen name another character that's like, as serious as this role is supposed to be. He's not playing a horror movie character. He's in a drama who happens to be in an exorcism movie. Name another actor who's that good in that situation. There's nobody. So there's
Toni Collette
kills it throughout the whole movie.
Hereditary.
Okay, I'll give you that one. She's
Rebecca Hall.
James Woods, Scary Movie 2.
Yeah,
Scary Movie 2. Wait, Rebecca Hall and what?
Roland Kincaid,
Night House.
You know what? I'm not a huge fan of Night House. The ending of Night House, I'm like, okay, that's where we're going with this.
I love that movie. I can't talk shit because I really love that movie.
I love it too. I love it too. I based my character off of my first short film off of her performance in that movie, but I feel like it was a little weak.
The gift. Like there's a number of roles that Rebecca Hall is just.
Oh, she's an amazing actress. She's unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm saying like, I say Rebecca Hall as in like.
Yeah, you're saying there's other actors.
Like her role. I'm not even saying the movie, but you were saying name another actor.
As good as that.
Yeah, and Rebecca Hall is the other one to me that I think Mia Goth is getting right up in that rare air as well.
Yeah,
I think it's interesting that we're seeing mostly women though doing these insanely amazing roles, and not nearly as many men, I don't think, reaching quite at that level.
Yeah, that's true. Like one in the last 10 years, name a dude who's up at that level.
I just watched Split, and what's his name that plays
McAvoy.
that McAvoy? He's got it in him. I don't know if I'd say Split is his.
He's the only reason I'm excited for the American Speak No
Same
Evil.
here, and I have a feeling that we could see him literally save that movie's life just because his performance is that good.
100%.
All right, we're to number one. So who's
Cody?
next?
What is your number one, my friend?
My number one, I had to go with Ash. I just feel like that's the final guy if there ever was one. It was a tough pick between that and Andy. I definitely have more emotional attachment to Andy. But
real quick, did none of you guys think of Predator as a horror movie then?
Predator, I would not argue it being a horror movie. I always think action first with that one, but that's not a movie that I would argue.
I'm surprised that Dutch wasn't on any of your guys' list. Like not
one.
No,
I'm also surprised nobody chose Norman Bates. Like
yeah. So Ash,
because he's not a survivor. He's the villain.
Yeah, I don't know. They do come after
maybe
him.
in the second film, arguably, I guess. But So I mean, Ash. There's not a whole lot you can say. I mean, it's Ash. He embodies everything you would want the final guy to be. He's got the badass side of him. He's got the hilarious side of him. There's that really cheeky campy sexiness that they go for. That Bruce Campbell persona. He's kind of the character that most people would measure the final guy against. I mean, he's the franchise to where even now we have the Fede Alvarez film and the Evil Dead Rise film, which people love, and there's still people like, when's Ash gonna come back? Where's Ash at? So
I was gonna ask you, are you sick of Ash at all, or do you need him back in an Evil Dead film?
I don't know.
No.
I don't
think this is nothing against Ash.
His swan song was the series.
Isn't that crazy?
I wish that the series could have gotten a real ending. If he came back and said, "Hey, we're gonna do one more season of Ash vs. Evil Dead to give it a proper ending," I'd be so fucking down.
I know how they should end it now. You've got the protagonist from the remake, who she's what's her name? I forget her name. Levy.
Jane Levy.
I think that's so underrated, that movie. So you have her, and now you have the other girl.
Yeah, you guys know what's happening, right? I mean, they've kind of talked about it, but it's kind of clear to me. They're literally making up like a universe of Evil Dead because each one is a different book, and Ash is going to appear at least one last time.
See,
because once we get his book, that's when we'll see him.
See, I think the whole series needs to end with those three protagonists coming together.
There's one more, because the one they're making right now is a fourth book.
Okay, so let's imagine Avengers a team with him leading the team. The series just needs to end with him closing the book. You know what I mean? And there we go. That's the end of his character. He needs to die by closing the book. It'd be amazing if he died almost, and then his last thing he does is reaches up and closes the book, or whatever the hell may be, to end it all.
I could see him doing almost a Harrison Ford, like sacrificing himself, like heroic type of ending.
But then I honestly,
a Dewey,
I honestly see these guys having the balls enough to think we're about to see him kill himself, but then it doesn't happen, and you're just like,
that would actually be more fitting with Ash's character.
Yeah,
it's like like make him everybody think he's, because you know what? I don't know if I wouldn't say it's a Bruce Campbell thing, but I don't know if they ever will kill off Ash. Now that I think,
I don't think so. I mean, I'll be
honest, more of the riding off into the sunset kind of.
I think he needs to end it maybe by collecting all the books and leaving with them or something. You know what I mean? But I didn't like Rise. I thought it was like paint by numbers horror. We just watched the remake, and they didn't even come close to the remake.
We didn't just watch the remake, dude.
Well, it was
now you're sounding like an old man when 10 years goes by and you're like, we just saw.
Well, no, the problem is I just saw it on 4K.
10 years
I ordered it.
Yeah.
I didn't like the movie. I was just like, I've seen all of everything we just saw.
Yeah.
But
I liked it because to me it had a nice blend of tone where it had the humor, but it wasn't super humorous like the Ash Evil Deads. But then it also was serious, but it wasn't as serious as the Fede Alvarez. So like I liked
Yeah.
the tone of it. I liked the family angle because it was a unique angle to take it. And I think more than anything, we're going to look back on Rise and think it's important because of what it's setting up. Because now we can finally see the book and the Deadites and everything outside of the cabin. Because as long as you're always just in this cabin situation, it's like there's only so much you can do. But now that they've brought it, and I'm not saying it's the best Evil Dead or anything, but like I think because it was the first one to finally bring it into the city, bring it into, you know, anywhere. Now it can be anywhere and everywhere, and like especially via 4 different books. Like
my last question to you then is where does Rise fit in all the films for you? Then I'll shut up.
Ranking wise,
yeah. Where do you put that? Last place, or do you think
no, because
OG,
as much as
Army of Darkness, Rise.
No, I love Army of Darkness, but to me it's not.
What?
To me, Army of Darkness would be last, I think.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan.
I think it would be Army of Darkness, then it would be Rise, then it would be the remake, then it would be Evil Dead 2, then it would be the original Evil Dead.
I'm
Because Evil Dead 2 is like right there with 1, but I like the more serious tone of the first one, and the more like they were actually trying to go for a scary movie. The campy humorous of it was just their budgetary restraints for the most part. It wasn't so much that it was like meant to be a comedy. And then they kind of leaned into it in the second, which I think they did great, and it's amazing too. But like I just personally, and that's part of why I liked Rise, I think, and I like the remake so much. I like the more serious ideas that can be done there, you know.
I don't. For me, I don't know. It's one of my favorite franchises. I don't think there's a bad movie in it, but
no.
Agreed. My number 1. It was mentioned once already, and I'm surprised that only one person mentioned this final guy, because I'm going Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, Shaun of the Dead. Nice. I
absolutely adore this movie. And the older I've gotten, you know, especially after losing my mom, this movie hit me even harder. And I just think that when you have that moment of him in the bar with his mom, you know, and she's actually, you know, she's passing on, and he's trying, like, that to me was just like, it's hard for me to watch that scene even now. It's such, and the comedy is so good. The relationships in the movie are so good. I mean, one-liners alone, you know, that you've got red on you, you know, these things that I've said so many times throughout my life. And it's a movie that I had a DVD that had Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz on it. And at night I would literally put it on the DVD player and put on repeat, and it would just all night replay Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz over and over. And I'm a big fan.
You didn't have At World's End?
Oh, I did. This was before At World's End came out.
Oh, okay.
I still love At World's End. I'll go back and forth every day on which one I like more, Hot Fuzz or Shaun of the Dead. But Shaun he's the most relatable to me final guy. Like, he's such a fuck up, and it takes a disaster for him to become you know, a man. And there's a lot, even the part where he's in the backseat with his stepdad, you know, and he's like he's trying to tell me, he's like, you were already so old when I met you, it was hard to be a father to you, you know, I love you, be a good boy. Like, then he finally realizes, like, yeah, that is my dad. Like, you know, another moment that was very sentimental to me with me and my stepdad. So it's a movie.
That's why I was talking about his humanity, like his humanity in it. Like, he's such a layered character, and it's surprising because it's such a funny movie. It almost kind of catches you off guard when there's those moments in it that are so serious and so like heart-wrenching, and
they land. They're not bullshit moments. Like, they're real, genuine,
and yet it's still a genuinely funny movie.
Yes. I do want to. One of my favorite parts of the movie, though, real quick, is when they're all coming across each other and they're all the exact same characters when they're back in that alley. And they're like, hello, hi, how you doing? Like, I fucking love that part. So I do want to say, everybody, thank you again for hanging out with us. I've had an amazing time. This is not the last time you've seen these guys on the channel. We're going to have some more fun with these guys in the future, I promise. If you haven't already, please subscribe to their channels. Follow them on social media. I love having them here. This has been a blast for me. And if your first time here, make sure you like and subscribe. It really does help build the channel. Gentlemen, don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, as always, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.